Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we are going to have a great show for you tonight talking UFOs. Danny Silva from the Silva Record is here. He's finally matured and grown a nice beard, and we're going to, compliment him on such good facial hair, along with his knowledge of UFOs. Dirty Filth is here as well with another crazy cartoon. And the best part about tonight, each and every one of you are here as well, including we have Kitty Caddywhack in the gold medal position. Race Fan with a silver. Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. T-Bone, my man, how you doing? Robert Lamont. David Norenberg is here. David Norenberg will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Frankie B, Road Flare, Miriam, how you doing? Good to have you all here. As we scroll on down, say hello to Bar Madison and Fast Hemi. Necessary Dialogue, good to see you. Amanda, how are you tonight? JSCO and Mama Catherine. I love you, Mama Catherine. I know you're going to enjoy tonight's show because you love a good UFO story, so this is tonight for you. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because when Danny Silva is on, you always want to go into a show nice and smooth, so Mel's lubing up this show as we speak. Flat 6, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call tonight. Up next on our list, let's scroll on down. Scroll more, and more, and more. Apparently more, and more, and more. And, boy, that must have been one hell of a conversation. Just saying. Lee the Bee, how are you tonight? As we continue on with our roll call. JMJ12, good to see you. Hi there, Thomas Rock and Operation Shutdown. Good to see you both. Eternity Eternal. Sharon Sunshine, welcome to SOR Chat. We appreciate you coming on in. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship is back. Stephanie will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, Moving on down. Up next, we say hello to Rock and Rory, J. Truth Seeker, and Matthew Gutka. Thank you all for coming on in. Nina Williams, how are you tonight? Paranormal Portal, there he is. B. Arthur himself. Good to see you, buddy. You'll be right there. Little Timmy James. Good to have you here, bud. Walter Kochabinski, Hillbilly Herb. Nice to have you here. Joanne and Rock and Rory. Good to have you both here. Hi, Pam Harris. Thank you for joining us. S. Fermet and Sonia. How are you tonight, Sonia? You beautiful soul. Sonia. All right, moving on down. Richard Minnick, good to have you here. Ozzy, how's it going? And Digger Dog, thank you for coming on in. Scrolling on down, Kimberly Burgess, nice to see you. Jarens Carter, good to have you here. Al Garay over on Twitch, warming up for Danny with 350 unidentified dumbbell curls. His arms are jacked for tonight. Scrolling on down, we say hello next to Queen Peachy Keen. Good to see you. I'm Hardcore over on X. Thanks for coming on in. Marty Burback, nice to have you here, as well as Carol Amerio. Steve Garza, how you doing? Been a while. Nice to have you back. Hi there, Mr. Cowley. How you doing? Let's start the radio side. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Danny Silva from the Silva Record comes in to talk all things UFO. It's going to be a very informative show for each and every one of you. On our YouTube side right now, we are at the end of roll call. So we're going to say hello to Zenzabil. How you doing? And who's next on our list? Scrolling on down. Mr. Catfish. Nice to have you here nice and early. And, there's B. Arthur himself. Tracy, Alien Girl Winters, nice to see you. Carla, Jessica McCreary, thank you for coming on in. It is that time of the night where I like to remind all of you the Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Millennium, my man, how are you? And do me a favor, everybody. It's that time of the night where I ask you to throw your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of taking control, around the world, every hole. Is
Predators became your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, stood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have faded, watching you and watching me. Moving it behind glass curtains, act like nothing's wrong.
You can follow us on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I know you're out there somewhere. We got you to fall. Expose you all.
We got a great show from the Silva Record. Danny Silva is here, where he is going to take us down a road of what's really going on behind the scenes in the UFO world. Then in hour number 3, we'll have Swamp Dweller kicking things off. Christian McLeod will be filling in for an ailing Robin Haynes on the Cryptid Q&A. All right, let's get right to it, because Danny Silva is one of the good friends of this show. And you know, when there's somebody, when you need to know what's going on, Danny isn't as public as he used to be with the UFO/UAP story, but he is still a cognitive piece in what is going on behind the scenes with information, with sources, with people that he's talking to, trying to keep up to date on this ever-evolving story. He's a citizen journalist who really took off during the To the Stars Academy days when they came out in public in 2017, and he's really helped push the movement of disclosure online. He is brilliant. He started the Silva Record at silvarecord.com, where he was writing blogs and features for every kind of story regarding UFOs. And to me, Danny is one of the brilliant minds behind the scenes of what truly is happening with this unique UFO story. Let's bring him on now. He doesn't do a lot of shows, but we're glad he's here. Danny Silva, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
What's up, Dave? Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
You used to be so involved with this, a real public face. You were on X all over the place. You were very involved with trying to get this movement going publicly. And now you've kind of, I don't want to say faded into the background, but you're not as active as you used to be, Danny. Why is that? Why have you kind of taken a little bit of a step back and started doing more monitoring rather than posting?
That's a great question. I think it was a number of things at the time. One of my goals was to keep everyone up on what was going on. Back then, there really wasn't that many sources for that or outlets. Now it's like there's a million different people. To everyone's credit that pushed this thing, back then we would have, 2017, 2018 and years after that, we would have never thought in a million years that there'd be News Nation covering it. Now there's a ton of blogs. There's a million different YouTubers. And there's a lot more attention. So I don't feel like I need to write about every little thing. Also, it was a lot more secretive back then. I mean, even Lou Elizondo really wasn't speaking very much. I think that was because To the Stars Academy were telling him not to. But so I was kind of tracking their movements. I was also really gung-ho back then. And in some ways I've gotten a little bit more pessimistic, a little bit more pragmatic with the subject. I was really excited about things. Now I've seen some of these same things happen over and over again, or the same kind of teases and claims. And I just decided, I don't need to be writing about every little thing or even at all. I also, of course, have my personal life, and that was taking up a lot of time as far as writing. I still am on X, but there's a lot more commentators now. There's a lot more outlets. And also, I think my mind state has changed a lot.
Has the increase of YouTube channels, podcasts, and other formats been a benefit to getting out the UFO story? Because you were really part of what Grant Cameron had nicknamed the young guns of ufology back then, and you were a real true leader among that with a couple others. I think James Ian Doley, I think Joe Mergia and his fantastic hair. I think, you guys really helped set the bar. And the one thing, if I look back in time on this, that I think you guys, I didn't have, and I will admit this publicly, I didn't have a lot of respect for it back then, but now, 7, 8 years later, I think, damn it, you guys were trendsetters, because you guys really took the platform of Twitter, now X, and hammered it home with trying to get the UFO story out. You guys pretty much created UFO Twitter. You guys basically started posting everything on there. You had this unique style that was so different than what everybody else was doing. I look back at it now, Danny, and I think you guys, and yourself especially, were trendsetters for making the movement more social media friendly and taking advantage of social media to move the cause forward. And I apologize for being just an ass back then, but looking at it now, man, I wish I would have saw what you guys saw.
It was, we were kind of working with what we had, and what we had was social media, whether it was some of the Facebook groups or Twitter, and everything was kind of at our fingertips. And us being, used to the internet and doing that kind of thing, some of the more classic ufologists, I think, weren't as accustomed to maybe using those tools. So we kind of just used what we had. There were so few people on UFO Twitter at the time. I was also searching for information for myself. I was so addicted, and I figured I might as well, anytime I found something new that was interesting, I might as well share it. But now it's like instantaneously there's 10 different people talking about it at the same time. So that's kind of another part of the reason why there's just, I feel like I don't need to do what I was doing back then, because everything has grown so much. But social media has definitely been a blessing and a curse for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, man, you guys were trendsetters. You really were, and you have to. I'm going to force you. I'm not going to say you have to. I'm going to force you to take credit for that. Okay, or be one of the guys to take credit for that, because you launched a great platform for UFO people, UAP people to come together and really start having a place to converse, rather than Facebook, where you had to wait and wait and wait for somebody's opinion. I mean, it was right there for you. And now you look at it, it's really developed a mind of its own and an entity of its own. And that started pretty much with the hands of about 5-10 people, and you're one of them.
Yeah, it's true. And thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely were crazy with it and just addicted. And there's a lot of people that still are. and really haven't changed at all. Like you said, I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back. I also just had to prioritize, kind of what makes me happy. And unfortunately, with the nature of social media, debating and arguing is such a big part of it. And that's just not always fun for me to do. So I don't, sometimes I just don't want to share my opinion because I don't feel like having 30 people either agreeing and or disagreeing. And, yeah, it was a really fun time and a great time. And I really enjoyed kind of like sleuthing these different breaking stories. And there was, lulls for years where, like I said, Lou wasn't talking to the Stars Academy wasn't really talking. We knew that they were doing a lot of things, but we really kept it going for a lot of those years and kept the interest flowing.
When you look back on when you started in this to where ufology, UAPology is today, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it now?
Wow, that's a huge question. The progress has been amazing. I mean, I don't think we can deny that. Never in a million years did we imagine that there'd be so much political interest. Whatever we think about that, whether we think, they're doing a good job or not, there's a ton of political interest. That's amazing. There's been whistleblowers that have been pushing the envelope. We've seen Skywatcher now coming with unique perspective on things. But the political interest, especially the mainstream media, has kind of ebbs and flows. It's but then there's also a channel that kind of exclusively reports on it, whether you think they're accurate or not. They are reporting on it, and that's News Nation. So that's really cool. A lot of this stuff was kind of pipe dreams and things that we just it was like our major goals, and we thought that if we only could accomplish that, and 7-8 years later, it's been accomplished. I think the nature of the world and social media and media in general is so mixed up and crazy in all topics that I think UFOs also kind of suffer from that. So people don't know what to believe. There isn't really like super credible sources that you can go to, like mainstream sources where what they're reporting is like really solid. Like there's a lot of people that are debating everything. It's kind of the nature of the beast. And whether you're talking about politics, even sports, if anyone that follows the NBA, when Luka was traded, like people didn't, because that was so crazy. People thought it wasn't real at first. So you never know what to believe on social media. And I think there is some people getting a little bit bored of the UFO topic now because it's a little bit more of the same, a lot of the same claims. David Grush, his claims were so wild and extreme that it's been kind of hard to top that. Also, we had that hearing with David Grush, and so now it's like more hearings are kind of more of the same, I think, as far as how the mainstream media views it, and that's why their reporting, I think, has dropped off since the first hearing, unfortunately. Their TTSA, of course, folded in all. Well, they're still doing media, but that was an unfortunate event over the years. They were making big claims. So that's one thing I don't like. All those people that invested, a lot of people were investing as a donation, but at the same time, a lot of people were investing because Elizondo was there and Mellon was there and Justice was there, and they made it credible. If it was just Tom DeLonge, I think a lot of people wouldn't have invested. And I remember a lot of those people that invested big money, and a lot of them weren't rich. They're not even involved in the UFO community anymore, and they've all lost their money. So that's pretty sad. And I kind of feel like I had a part in that, and I invested as well. So that's unfortunate. At the same time, To the Stars Academy did do a lot of great things. They kicked off a lot of stuff. But the investment side of it is kind of a black eye, looking back on it. Then again, there is really great people that have really stepped up, like George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell have been, I think, the most consistent. So that's really good. And I don't know, it's I wish there was more credible news or even famous podcasts. Like even Joe Rogan is like, you don't know when he has on a guest for any subject, whether they're just pulling it out of the air or whether it's credible. And it's just kind of how the world is right now. And everything seems and feels kind of like it's a mess, I guess.
Do you like where ufology is heading? Has it been something that when you look at it now, you're like, wow, I never saw it getting to this point? Or are you like, damn, I wish it didn't get to this point?
The progress is great. I think it's hard for me to generalize, I guess, like that. The progress is amazing. I think there has been a lot of mistakes made, but at the same time, a lot of the people that were making the mistakes were doing the best they could with the information that they had at the time, and that's really all you can ask. I think there's very few malicious people. Of course, there's some, like scammers like Billy Carson. But I think a lot of people in general are trying to help. There is a lot of people trying to cash in, unfortunately. I don't know where ufology is going right now, to be honest with you. I think everything is focused kind of on the government stuff and the whistleblowers. And then Skywatcher is also just kind of like, who knows what's going to happen with that. That's really exciting. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going now. Before it was kind of, I guess the clear future would be political engagement still. So hopefully that will continue. Other than that, I'm not sure exactly, because back 7-8 years ago, we just wanted more mainstream coverage and we wanted political interest. And in many ways that has been accomplished, at least at points. So we got to give kudos to mainstream media when they were covering the first hearing really well. That was covered across the board, it seemed like. Some of the other hearings have not been covered, but at least they gave us a shot, I think.
The idea that we have seen this go right from UFO Twitter all the way up to the White House. Do you ever look back at it, Danny, and just say, I had a small part in that? I was one of the ones getting the message out. I was one of the ones, and I'm not saying that to be egotistical here, okay? Because I know you're not an ego guy. You're a very humble guy, okay? But do you ever look at that and say, wow, man, I had a little bit of part of that? Because I do when it comes to Canada. When I introduced Lou Elizondo to Larry Maguire, the former member of Parliament, and I got that meeting going. I have a little bit of a rush when it comes to that, that I did my little part. Do you feel that way as well?
I do it in a small way. I kind of look at the progress. I mean, we see Congress people tweeting about UFOs almost on a regular basis, which is nuts. I mean, just any politician that made any kind of side comment about UFOs or even a comment we thought could have been about UFOs and we weren't even sure, that was huge news. And now we're kind of used to it. I guess it's just the nature of humans, where we always have to kind of outdo ourselves. But a lot of the things that are going on now were like I said, just pipe dreams. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And it was Michael Schellenberger on both of the two last hearings. He did include a bunch of old Silva record links from the congressional record. So that's kind of cool for me. But I do feel like I've let some people down by stopping to write, to be honest. So that's not a great feeling, but I got to do what's best for me. And I don't want to be doing something if I think like, I don't want to just be doing it to do it. If I come across an amazing story or something, I'll write about it. At the same time, once you put it on Twitter, it's like it's out there. And a lot of the blogs, even to this day, they're just almost like reporting on what was already tweeted about. So they're just kind of aggregating tweets and then putting them on their blog, and then that's a story. But then again, big stations do that, like even News Nation does it. So it's just how it goes, I guess.
Who is Danny Silva watching these days? We got about 4 minutes till we go to break, Danny. Who are you watching today? Who's catching your eye?
I am really interested in Skywatcher. I think that's really interesting what they're doing. They came out of left field. with their how they're doing things, and it's wild. And they're making massive claims. They've making claims even crazier than probably To the Stars Academy made, and they gave themselves that timeline of the end of the year. So that's really interesting, of course. And I don't know any of those guys personally, but I have to be watching them. And if they come January 1st, if they haven't delivered, then we can all destroy them online or something. But I don't know. That's just a really interesting and odd story, and their confidence is really odd to me. It's almost like they feel like they already have it in the bag to claim that they would have proof by the end of the year. I'm wondering if they're going to go back on that and say they need more time at the end of the year, which would be really unfortunate. I'm always watching George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. I think they're great people, and they work extremely hard, and they're really consistent. A lot of the same people I'm actually watching. The main new, I'm still watching Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, guys like that. And there are a lot of people that I'm not as interested in watching that I used to. But I think Skywatcher is the big difference, at least right now for 2025.
I think my only concern with Skywatcher, and it's nothing I haven't said publicly before, is I don't like how they are trying to change the names of everything. We don't need to call an octagon shape UFO that's been seen in 8Con. Okay. The whole psionics aspect, like they reinvented the summoning aspect of everything. I just think that, to me, that's pressing in a wrong direction. Maybe I'm not explaining that correctly, but I don't understand why they are so adamant about name changing everything. Because the one thing that I have learned, and I'm not sure if you think the same way, there has always been this stigma that the term UFO means spaceships and little green men, extraterrestrial, so they change it to UAP. NHI comes out, because aliens means little green men who are going to anal probe you. They're always seeming to have to want to change things for their own direction. Do you get that, or do you think it's just being a little too sensitive?
I see that happening. I'm kind of not sweating the small stuff with Skywatcher, of course. People are skeptical of where they're getting their funding, their motivations, and things like that. But when they say they're going to have quote unquote undebunkable proof by the end of the year, that's what I'm the most focused on. Not that anything else is not relevant or people shouldn't care about that, but I'm kind of just looking at that big picture, because that's always been the goal, is having public proof or having better evidence in the public realm.
And I would agree with you on that, Dan, but the problem is I'm curious to see if they get it, will they release it? Because the one big thing around government, everybody in government and the subject of government, they keep throwing around the word transparency, but we sure as hell are not seeing a lot of transparency.
It's odd. I think we haven't had the transparency level from almost any group. We definitely didn't from To the Stars Academy after they did the credas that no one really knows where they're at, or they got sucked up into the government and all the other claims. So there always hasn't been the transparency, unfortunately. I don't know though. That's a legitimate concern. It definitely is. But like I said, I'm just kind of going. They got like 7 more months or whatever it is left, and so I'm waiting for that undebunkable proof. And they didn't say that they would get it and then not tell the public. Of course, that's a worry, definitely. But they're acting like they're going to show it to the public. So I honestly don't see how that is even possible, that they're going to be able to accomplish what they say they will. But I'm here for it. And
Danny Silva, Silver Record on Spaced Out Radio. We continue, Danny, right after this. All right, we're clear. Remember, Dan, I know it's been a while, so I'll just give you a quick reminder that our YouTube and podcast audience can hear us. Our radio audience cannot.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Red Storm, how you doing? Good to have you come in. John Jackson, thanks for joining us tonight. And I think we're all caught up there. Man, it's good to hear you speaking again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I prefer to do this, in an interview every once in a while rather than sitting down and spending 3 hours every day writing a blog or something like that. It's also really time consuming for me. So, and I don't know. I felt bad taking donations, and I turned all those off. I never had ads on my site, so it was really time consuming. But I enjoyed kind of not making any money off of it, just so no one could hold that over my head too. But I got a lot of stuff. I got to live my life, and I can't just be, reporting on what people are saying on Twitter every time or I used to think a bunch of those claims were like amazing, and once you've heard the same claim 10 times, it's like I don't want to write a blog on this anymore.
I hear you there, and I'm finding it very difficult to even take a break now. Mm-hmm. It's become so, like, give an example. We plan on taking a bunch of SOR people down to Vegas a week ago, and all of a sudden, Eric Davis drops the bombs. We're in touch with 4 different extraterrestrial species, and here I'm thinking I'm in the middle of Woo Central when it comes to aliens, and I can't even do anything about it. You got
a really great thing going, though. I mean, you're not a blog; you got an actual radio show. You're on nightly. I don't know how you do it. I guess you don't get any sleep every single night. But
I'm dumb.
You got a great thing going.
I'm stubborn. That's what it is. I'm stubborn, and that's why I got gray hair.
Yeah, I mean, you work hard. I don't think anyone works as hard as you. Imagine doing a show every night. That's wow.
But you know what? I don't think I work as hard as a lot of these new guys on X, where they're doing like 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 hour spaces.
They're just kind of talking, though. I don't know how much work goes into that. I mean, it's definitely a lot of time spent, but they enjoy it. I think a lot of those people don't necessarily have 9-to-5 jobs. Maybe they make their money in other ways, or just from freelancing or something. But yeah, I don't know how they get so much time for that. There'll be like a 12-hour space or something. I've been bummed out about a lot of those spaces, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot of just bad.
I can see when I get rid of my daytime job, and if I'm blessed enough to do that and do this full time at night, I could see myself doing daytime spaces just to kind of drive some interest in the show that night or whatever. Use it to the advantage, but I don't see. Until that happens, I don't see us doing it. It eats up too much time, and before you know it, you blink your eye and you're an hour and a half in.
They're fun if there's like breaking news, or sometimes they're just fun to socialize. I honestly, sometimes I like the spaces more when it's a bunch of UFO people and we're not even talking about UFOs and we're just talking about music or TV or whatever is on our minds. And I enjoy those. It's just kind of like the socialization factor can be pretty fun. But there's also tons and tons of arguing and a bunch of other stuff I don't even want to get into, but it's a double-edged sword like all social media.
Oh, yeah. That's very true. That's very true. You cheering on your Dallas Stars or what?
I'm not a big hockey guy. I'm not. I'm sorry. I have that Oilers jersey, though. I have that alternate Oilers jersey that I've had for like 20, 30 years or something. But I'm not a big hockey dude, unfortunately.
Oh,
is it the playoffs or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm watching.
Stars.
I'm a big
Stars won tonight. We got to get. One of the things we got to change you next is from you, because we got you out of the UAP crap into UFOs again. Next thing we got to do is get you to change basketball to hockey.
Stars are very popular here. despite it being Texas. So, but nothing is bigger than football here. One Cowboys regular season game is bigger than Rangers World Series.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Okay, we got about 7 seconds. Thank you, Pam, Richard, T-Bone, and Adam for the super chats. Here we go, everybody. Here we go, the 7.5 hours. It's now radio tonight. Of ufology. All right. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From the Silva Record, Danny Silva is with us. He is one of the brilliant minds the last 8-9 years regarding the subject of UFOs. Danny, we are glad to have you here tonight. You know, before we get more into the UFOs, you know, we were talking a little hockey. I know you're not a big hockey fan, but you know what I love about the Dallas Stars? Because you are in Dallas, Fort Worth. I love the fact that they still use Pantera music as their goal after every goal. I love that.
I met what's his name? Oh, I'm gonna get flamed for this. What's the big Pantera guy that passed away?
Well, there was a Dimebag Daryl.
Yeah, Dimebag. I met Dimebag before. I met him in Deep Ellum. My brother was a big fan, and he was really nice to my brother. And he had a limo. He jumped out in the middle of the street in Deep Ellum, which is like the huge club area of Dallas. And he was talking to everyone. He had a beer in his hand. And so I met him before he passed away.
Back in 1992, I was 19 years old? 19 years old. I had front row center for Pantera opening up for Skid Row in Vancouver. And I got Dimebag Daryl hit me right in the shoulder with a guitar pick. It was awesome. Cool. I still got the pick.
Yeah, I've been to a ton of concerts with my brother. I'm not the biggest metal fan, but I've been to a few of them. I went to Typo Negative, and Dimebag was on stage with them, and we were like pretty close to the stage. There's a lot of concerts in Dallas, Deep Ellum.
Oh yeah, I love taking my son to concerts. That's the big thrill for me now, is taking my boy to concerts. He's 11, turning 12 next month, and I'm taking him in September to see. I don't know if you've ever heard of the rock band Hailstorm.
I don't think so. I'm more of like a hip hop funk, and I listen to pop now, but I'm not a big.
You're a Swiftie.
Yeah.
You're a Swiftie. How many bracelets do you have? Be honest.
I like Doja Cat and Chapel Roan.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I really don't. All right. Let's move on to UFOs. I want to get into a serious topic with you in this one, because for a long time since he came out in 2017, Lou Elizondo really has been the face of ufology. You got to know him very, very well over the years and talk to him both publicly and privately regarding the UFO/UAP subject and the whole governmental side of everything. But recently, since his book came out, there's been a lot of controversy around Mr. Elizondo. And I say this with a preface that I like Lou. I do. And I always like to preface that, because he's always been good to me. For a number of years, he's been very good to me, always cordial when we talk, and usually it's behind the scenes. But I'm curious from a journalistic point of view on my end, do you think his reputation since his book came out is tarnished, and then following it up with those two pictures that I kind of nicknamed the ULP, the unidentified lighting phenomena, number one, and number two, the UIP, the unidentified irrigation phenomena that came out a couple weeks ago?
I went to his speaking tour in Dallas, and it was actually at the theater that they caught Lee Harvey Oswald. It was a historic theater, the Texas Theater. It's pretty big, and he had a packed crowd, standing ovations. This was after the chandelier photo, and he put the chandelier photo up on the screen, and he said he was wrong about it, and he basically apologized to the crowd. I think a lot of the people that are upset about that, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, I'm not happy about it either, the mistakes he's made, but he's done a lot more good than he's made mistakes. But I think we kind of really hammer down on certain things in the UFO community because we look at everything and we dive so deep, and that's our job. But I think probably the people in general that follow him and love him, I don't think they're going to care as much. And seeing that crowd support him, there was a line to meet him that must have been 3 hours long. And that was after the chandelier. So I don't think this is really going to hurt him. It may hurt him for people that are, looking at things really, really closely. But a lot of people don't look at things that closely, and they're kind of on board with things. So I don't know. I bet you he can still pack another tour and have standing ovations, be on almost any media he wants to. So I see both sides of it. But, I mean, he has made mistakes. He made that one recently. There's a lot of controversy with what exactly did he do. People debating that. I've kind of stayed out of that. That's between him and Jay Stratton and Eric Davis and anyone else who wants to debate it. But I think in the long term, he's going to be okay.
I think Lou is a survivor. I really do. My question to you is, Danny, Lou has always kind of been somebody who is very calculated with what he says and what he does. I mean, that's not only his persona, but it's the intelligence community coming out of him as well. With these two photos that kind of came out, do you think that this is somebody on the inside maybe setting him up to look bad, or do you think that he just got caught not doing his homework?
Of course, I don't know for sure. So, everything is on the table. I don't think, if I had to guess, let me put it that way, I don't think he's getting set up. I think he thought they were compelling, and that's why he showed them. They were unfortunate mistakes. I have some big questions about that. Basically, it scares me a little bit because we're always told about this evidence that insiders are able to see, or classified things that they've seen that are so great. And we're consistently shown things. The public gets shown things that are either lackluster, debunked, or the part of the video that shows something anomalous is missing. It's like the trend. And objectively, I think I can say that now, where that has been the trend for 7 or 8 years, where there really isn't that great of evidence or data or anything in the public realm. And it's always, there's something behind the scenes. So the example would be if he saw the photo, the crop circle photo, if he saw that privately and it was classified or something, or he wasn't able to show people due to, whatever reason, and he thought it was amazing, would he have done 15 interviews saying he saw something great and describing it, and the public thinks it's amazing because he's describing it? Little do they know that once it gets shown, it's going to get debunked. So that's a legitimate worry, I think, but at the same time, I think Lou has, he's a smart guy. So I'm hoping that doesn't apply to everything. It scares me a little bit. Dr. Taylor is on Skinwalker Ranch saying that a fly was like a UFO. I know that was like preliminary is the excuse, and that was after they, I guess, did the science on it. But he's all excited, I guess, for the TV cameras, saying it's a UFO, making all these crazy claims that are just ridiculous. And he was the head scientist for UAPTF. That was a big red flag for me years ago. That really scared me. And so I'm all about seeing the work. I want to see the work. I'm sick of everyone basically saying they've seen something that they can't show us and it's amazing. That only goes so far, and we're way past that now. And because so many things have been debunked that have gone public, that's just no good anymore to me. And so we really have to see their work. We really can't take anyone's word for it. And that's not a personal knock on anyone. I think that's just the objective truth. We need to be able to see the proof for ourselves, and no more stories of something great. And an unfortunate part about all this is I think probably people are wrongly or rightly so going to be showing less things publicly because every time they get released, they get destroyed pretty quickly. But there are people that are still going to be showing things, I think, like George and Jeremy. But I think other people are probably looking at this and saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't put anything out unless I'm really, really, really sure now. And that may be good also.
Follow up to the Elizondo question. With the fact that he kind of got called out in the last UFO hearings by Nancy Mason and Polina Luna about it being a book sale rather than actually providing answers. Now he comes back on the tour. He has the one fake photo on the meeting that was very important, brings out a photo that he claims he did not vet. He had got it that morning and thought it was interesting and put it up there. Do you think between that and David Grush no-showing and having a history of no-showing that Congress is kind of indefinitely suspended these very important talks because they're tired of the shenanigans?
I don't know the whole story of the Grush no-show, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. I've heard different things, but Grush is supposed to still be working for Burleson. So I don't know. That's another thing that's frustrating. It's always like there's some skiff that they have to go to. I think Lou did a great job at the hearing that he was in. He did say, we can look back and say he said, look at my book. He said that too many times. He's not perfect. He made a lot of mistakes when he showed the crop circle. If you look at the mainstream media outlets that picked up that story, they also didn't get it. So it wasn't like just the UFO community. A bunch of the outlets were saying new UFO photos shown by Government Insider or something like that. So they didn't get it either. It wasn't just the UFO community. So his messaging when he showed that photo, he didn't accomplish what he was trying to. And he did say it was like an object or something like that. So he misspoke. I think that's what he thought it was, to be honest. But that kind of turned into a mess, unfortunately. But I don't know. It's also the news cycle. I think a lot of people that don't like Lou are going to use it forever against him. But probably in a lot of other circles, it's probably already been forgotten. But I don't know if the government has just thrown all this stuff out. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know for sure. There's people that are really involved with the hearings, like Jeremy Corbell. So he would be the one to ask about that. I haven't heard him say that recently. So I just can hope that isn't the case.
What do you think then about the hearings being postponed indefinitely?
I don't know. It's not a good sign. It isn't a good sign. I have a lot of worries and things in the back of my head. Another worry I have is that they have some of the least influential, other than Marco Rubio and Schumer, because they're very influential. But other than them, they have some of the least important politicians involved in this. No matter what you think of Luna and Burchett and these other people, They're just like not high up on the food chain. So I worry that they kind of gave this whole transparency thing to people that they think can't accomplish anything. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it's just kind of a worry that I have.
A worry about whether or not this is going to work, whether it's not going to work, whether it's going to move the ball forward. What is your concern?
I'm worried that it's a setup, that they gave it to politicians that can't accomplish anything and have no power, and that people don't really listen to very much. So it was kind of like a setup to kind of throw the public a bone, knowing that nothing would come from it. That's my big thing about this situation. And Nancy Mace is kind of wacky. Luna seems very intelligent, but I don't think she's like, a big shot. Burchett isn't a big shot. He seems very intelligent also. And I'm not trying to take away from their motives or anything like that, but they're not just like heavy hitters in the political world. However, Marco Rubio is massive, and he seems to be on board with this, although I don't think he's commented anything since he's become Secretary of State, but he's a big shot. So what he says holds a lot more weight than some of these other politicians on this transparency task force. And you could say that not only about UFOs, but anything else that they're focusing on with the transparency task force. I'm a little worried that this could be a setup. I don't know that that's the case. It's just kind of in the back of my mind.
I think one of the biggest issues that I have, and I'm going to pick on Tim Burchett here for a second. This is a man for the last number of years who has screamed about transparency. Everything should be transparent. We got to put this all in front of the American people. And yet nothing he does when it comes to hearings ever gets in front of the American people. I find that very tough. I think
they are trying. I don't even know that they have the tools. I mean, they don't have subpoena power. They have to go to their boss to get it. And it's just this whole part of it where I'm just not 100% sure. And I know that Trump signed an order, and Luna mentions that a lot, but I don't know. It's a little bit concerning.
What's concerning about it to you?
Well, just like I said, that they just don't have the clout and the resources, and no matter what they want, that they can't accomplish any goals with any of this transparency task force on any of these subjects, really. And that it's kind of like a false thing to throw the public a bone and look cool and not actually accomplish anything.
In Danny Silva's world, what would need to happen to take this to further limits?
7 or 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, we had a bunch of things on our wish list, and a lot of that stuff has happened, and it hasn't propelled us into promised land of disclosure, quote unquote. So really what has to happen is, I think we're all claimed out. There's been so many claims, starting with, Grush, and not saying he shouldn't have said what he said. That's great, but he set the bar now. And so we really just need proof of some sort. What that means to people, is kind of debatable. We need some sort of proof, some sort of evidence. We need a video where something's happening that's anomalous, which we really haven't seen. There's been no right angle turns, nothing. There's supposedly video of the last Jeremy Corbell video going in and out of the water. There's 17 minutes of that Arrow didn't include. Arrow is another concerning thing, of course. So maybe it would be nice to have one of these videos that shows something really anomalous that we can kind of show to the media, show to the public, and even show to ourselves and be happy about. Because a lot of the stuff, the videos, they're kind of going in a straight line. And what's off camera is supposedly the most compelling. Even with the Tic Tac, the video kind of just goes going straight, and the great stuff is what Fravor supposedly saw, and of course that's not on the video. And it's like, that's the narrative almost always with these videos and evidence and everything, and it's always behind the scenes, something amazing. It does get very frustrating.
I think for me, I think I would like to see a good video. like, where is the 21-minute video or the 23-minute video that was supposed to be, what was it, Go Fast? Was it supposedly a 23-minute video?
There's a lot of rumors about Go Fast. Back years ago, I was told, oh no, not Go Fast. Gimbal just shoots off.
Gimbal.
Now people are saying that the Go Fast and the gimbal, there was like some huge fleet or something that's on video or something like that. It's always something that gets one-upped, and of course, it wasn't mentioned until like they had their backs against the wall after the fact. And there's always an excuse, and there's always something that's behind the scenes that's amazing. So maybe one of these times we can actually see something amazing. But hey, maybe Skywatcher and Jake Barber, he coined the term undebunkable, which really isn't a word, but it's apropos. And hey, we need something kind of undebunkable, or it would be really nice to have something that's amazing, that really knocks our socks off, even if we can't prove it's a UFO. It'd just be good to have that feeling again.
It would be, because how has your look, with 3 minutes to go, how has your look changed on disclosure? Because I really do believe that disclosure has become more of a fashion word rather than just a word of meaning. I've just been burned too many times, and I mean, maybe in 20 years from now, I'll look back and I'll say, hey, that was only 7 or 8 years. What are you complaining about? But to me, 7 or 8 years also feels like a lifetime. And there's been so many claims, so many letdowns. Over and over again, we've been told to buckle up, and earth-shattering news is on the way, and blah, blah, blah. And then the tease gets more attention than the actual story. I think messaging from UFO figureheads leaves something to be desired. But I'm not expecting disclosure to ever happen. I'm rooting for it, and I'm going to be tracking it, and I want it to happen, and I'll do everything I can, and all that kind of thing. But after being led down so many times, I'm just really not expecting it anymore. And not that I ever was, but actually I was at first. I thought we had a good chance. Now I'm not so sure. The gatekeepers do a really good job. If there are these legacy programs that have been around for 70 years, they know what they're doing, and they've had a bunch of time to prepare. So it feels like our back against the wall and odds are against us. But hey, at the same time, we gotta keep trying and keep at it, like George Knapp says. Do you think we're more in a confirmation movement than an actual disclosure movement?
Some of these terms are pretty confusing, and we used to debate about that a lot, the confirmation, but really when the level of public things the public gets to see is just not good, or there's so many things that are quickly debunked, I don't think we've really had confirmation. I mean, we've had a bunch of people tell us that UFOs exist and aliens are, involved, or whatever you want to call them. But I think there is no confirmation for the general public. I think the UFO community believes and knows, and whatever you want to say, but we're to look at the world as a bigger picture. I think the general public just isn't on board. So I don't even know if we've had confirmation yet. Of course, that's debatable, though.
I don't think we've had much. We got a lot of people hyping it up, but not a lot of follow-up. It's like, watching a sports game, sitting in the stands, watching the warm-up before the game starts. Then the players go back to the dressing room, and that's where we are. That we're waiting for the players to come back out of the dressing room.
And we're getting told they're going to win a championship every year, over and over and over, and there hasn't been a championship.
We just need one game, one period, my friend. That's all we need, is one period. I don't know how hard that is. It's getting to the point of frustration, is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I've been a lot more frustrated previously, and I've kind of leveled off now. I'm trying to be really middle ground, and I like that way of thinking. But I want that excitement that we had in 2017 through 2021 again.
Danny Silva, Silva Record. We got him for another hour here on Spaced Out Radio. More UFO talk. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Danny, we are clear. We're going to turn things over to Dirty Filth. We got about 6 minutes, buddy. All right. Dirty Filth, it's all yours, my man.
Look, Dave, I drew the gnome that steals your keys all the time.
I love it. He looks like he would be a good partner playing canasta.
I don't know. He's kind of a jerk. He's a complete lunatic, and he likes super hot chicken wings as well. I'm sick here. I gotta turn this terrible radio thing down. Eversor, you know what? The Nazca mummies are some of the coolest things. We had a guest on a couple weeks back that was talking about some of the mummies from South America. Actually, let me just... I can go see who it was. Because I have it handy in my little UFO thing here. But yeah, it's weird because apparently some of them had eggs or something inside of them. I don't know the entire story right down pat and everything, but it was pretty interesting. Ed Casis is the guy's name. I know he's if you type in tridactyls in X, you'll find his name. He's got a little alien looking dude there. He's really dug into it a lot. It's interesting. Amanda's Crazy Life channel. Yes, he's the gnome. He's naked. He's a pretty clean guy, though. He washes himself in the river every morning. Premature disclosure. Good gods. You guys are out of control. Oh, yes, Jeff Garvey. That was the gremlin, by the way. He just decided to pile on me for a little bit. Usually he's fighting with his brother right about now. But they're both passed out now. Yeah. Basically, the gnome is the type of guy to steal. He'll take your socks and unmatch them on you overnight, tie your shoelaces together, things like that. I based the drawing off of a supposed fairy or gnome or wood nymph of some sort that I seen in a book, and someone had apparently mummified one, and you put the moths in the shadow box and everything. That's what they were going for. Oh man, Rugrats was great. I guess he does have the similar hair. Yeah, but he's definitely more of a lunatic than Chucky ever was. My favorite character was Grandpa on that cartoon. Adam, it's a key fob and a key. It may or may not be Dave's. Let me get a little bit closer so you can see it. Maybe without the blinding light. There you go. Pretty fly for a gnome guy. Alrighty. Yes, also, I forgot to mention, if you live in Edmonton or in anywhere near Edmonton, drive out to the Art Walk on July 11th to 13th and stop by and find myself and my pal Fox will be selling some original cartoons and plush aliens. Those cursed gnomes. That's why I have to leave little half of your beer left out overnight, and the gnomes will drink it. And hopefully they fall asleep instead of getting too rowdy. Seymour Glass. There's the YouTube channel has all the shows and everything that's live right now. gets recorded and it goes to YouTube, and you can rewatch all the shows from like, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something. I think it's 10 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. Yeah, Dave's got 6 fingers. I think he's
Dirty,
got
you're
red feet,
amazing
too.
as always.
Thanks, Dave.
Don't know how you stay so awesome.
Oh, just a lucky guy sometimes. All right, everybody, have a good night. I shall see you tomorrow. Have a good night, Dave.
Dirty
for
Phil,
coming on,
thank
Danny.
you, buddy. Give the cats extra treats for us. Dirty Filth, everybody. Filthy.com is his website. He's awesome. Just awesome. All right. Big thank you tonight to Area 53, Pam, Richard, T-Bone, and Adam B. for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. And Danny, we're in for another good hour here, man. God, it's flying by. Mm-hmm. Doja Cat, eh?
Yeah, I like a lot of pop music. It's just hip hop is so bad now, and I've just kind of turned to pop and
Here we
some
go,
other forms of music. I like funk, like there's like underground.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of Weird and strange. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hypostrophe. Hypostrophe is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to the Silver Record. Danny Silva is here tonight talking about the do's, the don'ts, the wants, the needs of where ufology is going, because it's an ever-changing atmosphere and landscape around the UFO world, and Danny is somebody who keeps his eye on the topic. Danny, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Dave, the hardest working man in the show business.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, man. I wouldn't say that. Much more harder workers than me. But I got the best beard. Outside of George Knapp, I got the best beard in ufology. I'm just claiming that. Well, Jeremy Corbell's is pretty damn good, too. I will say that. Okay, maybe the third best beard in ufology. There, I'm claiming that. Number 3, I'm a bronze medal. Denny, all the topic about this in politics and becoming a real, hot button topic in mainstream media and politicians, like we talked about earlier, the White House on down. Is there anything that they could do that could really push this ball forward? I mean, Eric Davis comes out, claims that we are talking with 4 different extraterrestrial species. That is a large topic. Zero evidence. We have to take him at his word. Everybody wants evidence instead of just, these incredible, fascinating words that they are saying. What can the government do here? Are they in a pickle?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really odd situation. I mean, it's some people in the government fighting others in the government. Some want the secrecy to continue, and some want the truth out. So it's really weird, and the government is investigating itself. I mean, I know it's not one thing; it's like a huge thing, but they're trying to investigate themselves. It's really odd. I actually found an old tweet from Gary Nolan. It said, "Witness testimony can only get us so far." I think he said that like in 2018 or 2019, and it's still true today. Whistleblower claims can only get us so far. The Immaculate Constellation, at least it came with a document, but even that is kind of like, it just hasn't gotten the attention other than the hearing. Maybe the next, if there is another hearing, maybe they'll focus on it. But it's almost like, and I said this earlier, it's almost like we have to outdo ourselves every time. And we've taken the claims, I think, as far as we can get. So I think if Marco Rubio or someone of really had stature said something, that would probably change. That would be a better improvement than we've seen. But the low rung politicians, I think we've maybe taken that as far as we can go. I'm not really sure. We need something to catch people's attention again, even to catch the UFO community's attention again. Dave, we've both been around, and you longer than me, have seen the waves of people that get really interested and come into the topic, and then they're gone a few years later and they get burnt out. And, we're kind of fighting against lack of interest in the mainstream media, but also in the UFO community. We're definitely in the kind of a downturn right now. And despite Skywatcher and despite Matthew Brown, and yet another whistleblower. So I'm not really sure. I kind of was thinking this when Grush came out, because his claims were just so out there, and so he kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. We just can't take claims any farther, I don't think. I mean, he was talking about murder and not just UFO stuff. And I don't know. We need to break through that. I remember asking Jeremy Corbell this when I was on Weaponized, and I'm just like, it feels like we're hitting a wall now. And what can we do to break through that wall other than having some sort of evidence, or maybe just a shocking video is what we need, because we really haven't had one since 2017.
I want to ask you about whistleblowers, because a couple weeks ago we had back-to-back Walter Bosley and John Ramirez on the show, and they were both very anti-whistleblower. Not the fact that these guys are bad guys coming out, but they're experiencers, they're eyewitnesses. They haven't whistleblown really on anything. And, Ramirez actually claimed, that, he looks at a guy like Edward Snowden as being a true whistleblower who actually, had to run for his life in order to get the information out there. Whereas with the UFO people, yes, we're hearing stories, but there's nobody who's broken an NDA. There's nobody who's really pushed the limits to say where the craft are or where the aliens are or who's hiding what. We really haven't had a true whistleblower come out yet. What is your stance on that?
I mean, I agree with that. It depends on your definition of whistleblowers, of course. So we have, had a bunch of people that say they're whistleblowers and have been reported as whistleblowers. But you're right. They haven't broken their NDAs. They're getting approved by DOPSR in many cases. So it's not the Edward Snowden version of a whistleblower, or the guy that's breaking the law and breaking whatever else clearances to do it. And it would be nice. Now, I think there's a number of worries about that. One, they could go to jail, of course. Two, if they're whistleblowing and they're not providing evidence, it's almost like, what good is it going to do? Let's say they even said there's a UFO at blah, 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 like Lockheed Martin and Dallas Fort Worth. I mean, what are people going to, it's going to be like Storm Area 51 or something. We're not getting in there. Even if the public are told that there's a UFO in that specific building, we're still not going to get in there. And supposedly they are telling locations to some of these politicians, or possibly are. So I don't know. I mean, would they do all that and then still it wouldn't be disclosure, and then they'd have their lives ruined? So I think that's all things that they're contemplating. I don't know. I'm not saying I know the answer, but they would really have to be sure that if they're breaking NDAs and are breaking the law, that what they're providing would be a huge change and not just a news cycle story that's gone in a month.
I guess for all of us, we just wish there was just that one one person who would put their NDA on the line. And yes, I understand that there is jail time. There is major penalties that go along with that. Loss of pension, loss of career. You're pretty much going to be unemployed for the rest of your life, at least in the government sector or private sector regarding that. But isn't that what it's going to take in order to move the ball forward? Say, have somebody, John Doe, come out and say, look, this is where the UFO craft are being hidden. This is who has the photos. This is who has the contract. Yes, we have alien bodies, at pick a place, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 14 floors underground, such and such a person has the key to those magic doors. Isn't that what it's going to take rather than what we're getting?
And I've debated with my friends and argued with people about this. So I've been on that side and I still am. It's like, if you have world-changing information, screw the fact that you may not have a job in the future or you're going to go broke. You can come live with me. I'll make you eggs in the morning if you cause disclosure. That's fine, and I'll pay your way. I'm not a rich guy or anything, but hey, let's hang out. We could be roomies. So I'm on board with that. And then some people say, no, you can never ask someone to do that. Well, if you're going to change the world, but like I was saying, my worry, and I think that they're probably considering this, is that's just more claims almost. Like if they're saying, hey, everyone has always said that there's aliens at Area 51. We still can't get in. So I don't know that them giving a location or saying that any of these words, it almost have to be like they're breaking their NDA and then they're having some sort of amazing evidence to go along with it. It can't just be more claims, I think. And I'm just kind of speculating here. I don't know for a fact, but that seems they would have to maybe like steal something and then show the public rather than just have a claim. And I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. But I'm on board with that. If you have world-changing info, I don't want to hear about your NDA, and I don't want to hear any of these other excuses. You need to come out with it and change the world.
I guess the problem is, though, if you take Immaculate Constellation, I think the only truthful thing that Susan Goff has ever said in the public about UFOs is Immaculate Constellation doesn't exist, because we know, if you talk to people on the inside, the minute the Immaculate Constellation came out, that program name was changed immediately. So that way they could deny the fact that Immaculate Constellation existed. But I guess the way I look at everything is the government can just turn a switch or use a pencil and eraser or liquid paper, whatever you want to use to change a topic or the title of something very quickly. So if any whistleblower came out, if we play devil's advocate, they're just going to change the program, move whatever is there to another location, so on and so forth. I mean, the cloak and dagger will continue no matter what, no matter how close we get, would it not?
Yeah, and that's what we've seen, and that's why it's so weird to have the government investigating itself. And I know that there's mechanisms to do that, and it's supposed to work, but I don't know how effective it is, and it's really scary, and we're hitting this wall over and over again. But if there is a whistleblower out there and they have more than claims and they have some sort of evidence or proof, then those are the guys that really need to break their NDAs and show it. But if it's more claims, then I understand why they don't want to break their NDA, because they're going to be a drop in the bucket of a million other claims that we've heard.
In your perspective, I think who is the closest whistleblower we have?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I think the most successful one as far as media would be David Grush, I would say. It depends if you consider, I guess, Lou Elizondo a whistleblower or some of these other guys. Then there's like the whistleblowers of history, like Philip Corso. I'm not sure. Your answer would be maybe even better than mine, Dave. But I think maybe David Grush, because he had the first hearing, and I feel like that was the peak of UFO mainstream coverage, possibly. We're going to, I guess, see what happens with Matthew Brown. Now, if David Grush never had came out, maybe Matthew Brown would be making more of an impact. I'm not really sure, but so far he hasn't really gotten like mainstream media attention other than, of course, News Nation. So I guess in my mind, it would be David Grush, but I may be forgetting someone.
I would agree with you with David Grush, but I think he got so close to the edge that I think he just absolutely hit the brakes. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Burleson is saying he's on the staff now, so I mean, is that just going to be another kind of thing we heard, and then in a year or two there'll be nothing that comes from it? I don't know, or will it, produce something amazing? I'm not really sure, but if they're finally able to, that's another thing that's so frustrating. I mean, in the first hearing, Grush was talking about, I'm going to give when he's talking to the politicians, he said, I'm going to give you guys, the dirt and all the info and the list of names and locations in the skiff. And we're like years later, and supposedly that skiff hasn't happened still. I mean, what is going on? I mean, that's the level of bureaucracy or just ineptitude of this whole thing.
And I think that's where the public feels strangled.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is really no place to move.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's more claims, and man, it's frustrating. And I've talked to mainstream media reporters, of course, not all of them, but I have a few people I know, and they, they're like, oh, well, and they reported on that first hearing, and I reached out to some of them to report on more recent things, and they're not interested anymore because it's claims without proof. And it's unfortunate, but I'm kind of at the same place with them, and it's hard to kind of promote the subject when it's always claims without proof.
So do you think it's becoming a dead subject?
I don't think it's dead. I think there's still a ton of interest. And like I said, it blew my mind when I saw the Lou Elizondo speech. So there are a lot of people, they're not on maybe social media, so we don't see them. But there were people that were driving in from other states to see Lou. I mean, he was like a rock star, basically. He probably could have done like a week of shows or something and sold them all out. And that's really cool to see. And he isn't just like, George Tsoukalos or someone that I don't feel like has any credibility and just gets the push from, like History Channel or whatever it is. So I think there is this underlying interest still there. I don't think it's a dead subject. I think there's still a ton more people on social media than there used to be. A lot of people have gone, and I'm pessimistic about things, but I got to also look at things in glass half full. And there still has been a lot of progress, and I think maybe a lot of other people that kind of their interest can be activated if there was another big story.
What would be that big story that you need?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a video that's just showing something anomalous that somehow outdoes all the other videos. We're going to have to have probably a politician that has stature, like Marco Rubio saying something. And I don't know, in this climate, I'm not even sure if that will do it, unfortunately, because people are so divided and don't believe people. If Skywatcher does what they say they're going to do, it's going to pop the lid off everything. But of course, that's I don't know. I'm actually amazed that they even claimed that and said that. It seems crazy that they even claimed that they're going to have undebunkable proof, but that's what they said. So I don't know. I mean, Skywatcher is unlike anything else we've seen. They're mixing in psychics. They have all these cameras that they say they're going to capture the crafts, and they did capture them. They just weren't very good pictures or video. I don't know. Maybe Skywatcher does feel like the future because they did take it to somewhere I almost didn't expect, and that's pretty crazy because we've been debating and thinking about what could happen for all these years, and their story was pretty unique and nuts. And my hat's off to them, and I just hope that they can accomplish what they say they will.
What do you think then about recent comments by lawyer? Why is his name Danny
Sheehan?
Sheehan coming out, concerning, some of the ways and the tactics that Skywatcher is using?
I'm trying to remember his specific comment. And, I posted it on X, and I can't even remember exactly what he said. But Danny Sheehan in general, he says a lot of wild stuff. He's been wrong. He's also been correct. Sometimes he'll speak too much and let things out that people don't want out. So it's kind of hard to know what's going on. I'm trying to remember what he said exactly. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was along the lines of the dog whistle thing that they are trying to use the dog whistle to potentially crash a UFO.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm into that. I think Danny Sheehan was saying it was like immoral or something. But hey, they were talking about getting one to land though, also, and not just crash one. But he was almost acting like that would be immoral for to do that to the NHI. But I'm just looking for proof for the public, so I'm into that. I think that's cool. And there are some concerns, of course, with Skywatcher. Like if they have this dog whistle that works, and I think they had an excuse. Someone asked them for it. I don't remember what their excuse was. But why don't they just give it to the world and let everyone use it then? And isn't that disclosure right there? If there's some reproducible dog whistle that you can give to scientists, why do you even have to wait for the craft? Can't they just give that technology out right now? Post it online or something?
Well, I think that's part of the problem, though, Danny. I mean, to play devil's advocate on Skywatcher here for a second, if you take the summoning, which they call psionics, this has been going on for people claim for millennia, centuries, years, decades. People have been doing it. And yet the way they are acting, or the way they have acted on it, to me, this is my opinion, so I don't want people, taking my claims as verbatim. They have to find out for themselves. But it's almost like they tried to make it that summoning was something brand new that they could teach the public to do, and that, they figured it out, which they haven't figured it out. People have been talking about it for a long time. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. We've been hearing about all this CE5 and everything for a long time. I think what they were bringing to it, or at least claiming to, is that they can reproduce it perfectly. Because there's so many people that say CE5 is easy. You can summon these things anytime you want. But at the same time, no one has great footage and can't prove it. So it's almost like whoever proves it first. So if Skywatcher can actually prove it first, that'll be a big deal, of course, because no one can actually do that. That's another wall we keep hitting.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because, what's old is new and what's new is old again. And what, you could use whatever cliche you want. What goes around comes around with that. I think that they, if it was proof, you just need more people who are summoning to be having cameras up in the sky. And the fact that, Skywatcher has what sounds like a very deep pocket or a deep wallet that somebody has donated to them for their research, you get the best cameras. You're not going to be using an iPhone. You're not going to be using a handheld or a GoPro. You're going to be using something very unique and special in order to capture what you're actually summoning in. So, I mean, they are ahead of the game there, but are they really ahead of the game for claiming that people, or that this is brand new to people?
Their messaging has been odd at times and off. I would say they've made mistakes with their messaging. It's kind of weird that they're saying they're going to prove or disprove the claims. Meanwhile, Jake Barber is saying that he's speaking to NHI and it's angels. So he's definitely not like unbiased or something. But then again, Skywatcher is kind of trying to act like they're unbiased. So we've seen kind of like mixed messaging that doesn't necessarily match up. But I don't know. All they have to do is do what they say they're going to do and provide undebunkable proof. When I first saw them on that first special too, I was thinking they must already.
Hold that thought, Danny. I apologize for cutting you off. We got to go to break. We got Danny Silva for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Sorry about that, Danny.
Oh,
I
no
lost
problem.
track of time.
No problem at all.
Are you surprised? I remember both Elizondo and Cahill. They were so anti-woo on this subject, and just a few years later, here we are with Skywatcher bringing in some major woo. Where the hell did the ball
a lot of things that at first the progression has been really interesting to watch. I remember when I was writing my blogs, I was researching and asking around about injuries from UFOs. And I was told, watch out. If I'm asking about this, it's going to cause me trouble. Other people were like, I was making them really, really nervous talking about injuries. And then only like 2 or 3 years later, like injuries was like totally mainstream. So I don't know what causes that necessarily. There's a lot of other things that at first, like they didn't even want to say like aliens or NHI. If you remember at first, like Lou did say we weren't alone. He said that on the mainstream media. But if you watch like Unidentified, the TV show, they were really trying to be very, very conservative with what they were saying. And then I think it was like the very last episode they started hinting more that of NHI or said something along those lines, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's kind of weird. It's almost like there's a I don't know if it comes from government people in their ear or if they're kind of agreeing amongst themselves that there's certain things that are off limits, but it always gets broken. And there's a million times where I've been told something off the record, don't repeat it. And then I'll hear it in an interview like a month later from that same person, and they're just putting it out there. So that I don't know, that it's just weird, but it's just something I've noticed.
That has driven me nuts too over the time, my friend.
Yeah.
You can't repeat this, and then so you're sitting on it sometimes days, weeks, months, and the person's like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell this to you first, so you could go public with it." Then the next thing you know, they're on an X space or on another podcast or YouTube channel, telling you what you've known for months, and you're like grinding your teeth. I mean, exactly. Dude, if you would have seen. God bless the late Michael W. Hall, but when he went crazy about sharing the Wilson Davis documents, I sat on that for 5 months, 6 months, and both Grant and Michael had stated that they were going to break it on SOR. And I sat on it, and I sat on it, and sat on it. And then all of a sudden, boom, here's Michael going, lining up interviews with Jimmy Church and a couple of idiots from a no-name podcast and a couple others. And I called him up and said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I said, "You were going to break this on SOR." And he goes, "Well, I can't because Richard Dolan had a portion of this and he broke it. And now we got to get it out there. I said, "Did you ever think of calling me?" Right? I said, "How does Jimmy Church find out about this?" And there's nothing against Jimmy, but I have never been so mad in this field. And to this day, I still have never done a story on the Wilson Davis documents.
Looking back, because I was sitting on it, of course, too, and I should have just written about it in the blog. And George Knapp told me to, and I didn't. I was trying to be respectful of Eric Davis, and I should have just done it, though.
You totally should have.
Yeah.
You totally should have.
I could have published the whole thing.
Yeah. It's such a crazy time. And yeah, to this day, my grudge against the Wilson Davis documents is I still will not cover that topic at all.
Yeah. I've gone to bat for people to keep secrets that they thought were important, or keep people's identities anonymous when we knew who they were. And I would I sacrificed some friendships over it. And then, like a year later, it doesn't matter. So I would never do that again. I've just learned a lot over the years.
Okay, we're coming back in about 45 seconds, Danny. Thank you tonight to Area 53, Adam B, T-Bone, Richard, and Pam for the great super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. We have Danny Silva for the next half hour. We're going to squeeze in some audience questions as well, as we got a few piled up here. So thank you. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and maybe get something for yourself. And when you do, take a picture for us. And Human Carl, thank you for that lovely super chat as well, my friend, a great veteran of the United States Air Force, Human Carl, everybody. We love you, bud. Thank you. Here we go. Right after this, but first, want to remind all of you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From the Silva record, Danny Silva is here tonight. Doesn't do a lot of interviews, but this is one he will do. Danny, thank you so much once again for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks, Dave. You were I think you were my biggest first interview in, I think it was 2018. So, man, years fly by, right? So I remember I was so nervous to come on the show. It was like my first radio interview or something.
Your answers were so short that I thought, my God, we
were battling over TTSA.
What's that?
We battled. You were like pessimistic against the stars in a lot of ways, and I was like their pro spokesperson, and we were kind of battling, if I remember correctly. We didn't know each other either at the time.
No, but you know what? I've never really been afraid of taking on people on this show who I disagree with, but it's got to be the right scenario. You know, you can't have somebody who's just an attack dog. That does nothing. You know, you have to be able to have good conversation, because that was a hot button topic of the time. And I knew that you and I we would debate, but we would have a great point and counterpoint. And look at today, 8 years later. I like to call you a friend. I think you call me a friend, and we have mad respect for each other.
And I think that I think you may have been a little bit more right than me, because I was kind of pretty one-sided, but you may have been a little bit too one-sided also. And then now, years later, we can look back and it was almost like middle ground was the correct answer.
Very true. Very true. I can accept that. I mean, you're still going to have to buy me dinner for it, but I can accept that. I want one of those Tex-Mex dinners next time I'm down there.
Yeah, man.
That's what I want. Danny, I want to get to some audience questions here. I know I cut you off in the last half hour, but I always like to have good audience questions here prepared from our people and get them involved. If you don't mind, start off with Queen Peachy Keen here, who is asking, what about Independence Day scenario with the potential of them, the aliens, saving us from destroying ourselves and the planet? What's your thoughts on that?
That's actually a scenario that I forgot about when we were talking about what the UFO world needs. And this is always brought up online when people are debating what do we need. It would be another mass sighting, kind of like Phoenix Lights or something. That would be amazing. I wrote a blog many years ago about how they were worried that the India, Lou Elizondo and Hal Putoff were commenting that they were worried that India, Pakistan, since they were kind of at each other's throats, there would be like a UAP or UFO sighting, and one of the countries would think it was like an attack from the other, and then nuclear war would start. So it kind of is not super crazy to think that. I mean, especially since we had the huge drone flap. What happens if there's some sort of UFO flap and another country thinks it's an attack? And of course, if NHI somehow saved us and it was provable, that would be a disclosure right there as well.
What would it mean to have another Phoenix Lights at this time?
It would just be insane because of the amount of cameras, I think. And also those are like unprecedented events. So if we had something like that, and I don't consider the New Jersey drone flap Phoenix Lights level because it was a lot more mysterious. Plus there's drones and that's another thing that really hurts us now is when Phoenix Lights happened, drones weren't really a huge thing or even a thing at all, I guess. Now it's like everyone will just be debating that there's drones. So we have a lot against us right now, and drone technology is definitely one of them.
The other thing that's against us right now is AI.
Mm-hmm.
These videos are becoming so clear. I think it's going to be very difficult to have a good video. Even if they come out with a picture perfect clear video from an F-16 or an F-18 or whatever it may be, we are going to be punishing that video as potential AI now. I don't know if we can trust it.
Yeah, it's really odd. We almost can't trust anything. We can't trust media. We can't trust major podcasts. We almost can't really trust a lot of politicians. It's like it's a huge mess, and we can't trust almost anything. And it's just really hard to know what's what. It does feel like we're in that movie Idiocracy at times as well. And things are really weird right now. And they're going to get weirder.
Speaking of weird questions, let's get to this one from Paul. What are your thoughts on Stephen Greenstreet and Mick West?
I don't hate those guys like people hate them. I think Mick West especially is one of the best assets to the UFO world. He debunks things sometimes very thoroughly and accurately. Other times he'll just kind of debunk them and I don't really buy into it at all and I disagree with him. But other times, he does a great job debunking things. If I had a government program, I would try to hire him because he's insanely smart and I want to hear what him and his pals that kind of love the debunking stuff, they do a great job. I would want them on the UAP task force or whatever government UFO program I was on. I would hire him. Greenstreet is a lot more controversial. He has a lot more opinion. I don't think he's a horrible person. I've talked to him. Once I talked to him one-on-one and I really understood more of his where he comes from. He also does take some personal shots at people sometimes, and I don't like that. However, other times he has good input. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but I don't necessarily think he's a bad guy. I don't agree with a lot of things he says, but I think I'm not afraid of debunkers, and they don't piss me off as much as other people get angry at these debunkers. I mean, the biggest debunker is the general public. So if the UFO community can't deal with debunkers, good luck dealing with the general public, because we're never going to get anywhere with them if you can't handle debunkers on this level.
I like Mick West. I've interviewed him a couple times on this show. He has always been very courteous. I may not agree with everything that he says, but I think you do need somebody who is watching closely. That being said, when you are putting down the opinions of trained observers like fighter pilots, they don't put dummies in a $55 or $100 million plane. You know what I'm saying? They don't put people who are going to make things up in those type of planes, because every move they make is life or death. And I think at times he has shown a little bit of disrespect to the position and the authority of the trained fighter pilots, especially. Now, on the flip side, we do need somebody out there who's not afraid to call to attention when BS is BS. Stephen Greenstreet has been kind of a thorn in my side from the New York Post, but I totally respect what he does. I don't agree with the personal attacks. I think sometimes his sarcasm gets a little personal, but on the flip side, he's a digger. He's always digging for information. I know many people that who are in the UFO world that are talking to Greenstreet, and they are having really good conversations behind closed doors. Like you just said, you've had those conversations with him behind closed doors. The guy's a smart guy, but I don't like that personal stuff. That I keep it to the journalism. Do the journalism. You know what I'm saying? Rather than make it personal.
Yeah, and they are both biased. It just so happens that Mick West also accurately debunks a lot of stuff, and we need that. But they are both, one-sided. They're not exactly down the middle on it. But we still do need those people, I think, and it evens us out.
Very true. Let's get to another audience question here. Let's go to Gray Owl. Danny, have you figured out the UFO enigma? How it's going to turn out to be smoking hot alien space babes?
I can certainly hope so. And there's all those stories of what about the Ingo Swan grocery store story? Everyone should look that up if you want some smoking hot alien space babes. That's one of my favorite wild stories.
Mine too. And hopefully the Nordics are as gorgeous as Eric Davis thinks they are, because I just, there's something about gorgeous people that just brighten up my day. Mm-hmm. Let's go to T-Bone here. Danny, what do you think of Jake Barber's claims?
I think, how does he know what he's dealing with? Because there's, it's not out of the realm of possibility that NHI has some sort of tech or mind power to kind of like brainwash you into you thinking everything is great, or you're thinking that they're angelic, and it's almost like a mechanism that they use. So I don't know how Jake Barber can rule out that he hasn't been exposed to that, because, he said he feels like they were still with him and they're guiding him throughout his life now. That seems odd to me. Like, how can you trust that? But I'm glad he came forward. I'm glad Skywatcher is here. And his past is really mysterious and odd to me. What I was going to say last segment was they are so sure of themselves. It's almost like, to me, when I watched them at first, I was thinking they must already have the evidence. Otherwise, why would they claim they're going to have it in short order like this? They must already have it. So, but I don't know if that's actually true. Maybe it isn't. It doesn't seem like it is, because they've released some really not compelling, bad videos that could be UFOs, but they're in that low information zone that Mick West talks about. And it's like, why even release them? Because the videos are so bad. So I don't know where they're going with this. Maybe they don't already have the evidence and the proof, but then, like, why were they so confident? Maybe it's because he has this NHI angel in his mind telling him to do things. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there.
I am going to ask you this. I wasn't really going to ask you, but your opinion when on their one video, who's standing there? Logan Paul.
Oh, when they had, are you talking about when they were in the podcast with Logan Paul?
Yeah. They were doing some summoning, and Logan Paul was there with them.
I don't even think I've seen that video. I may be bad, and maybe I missed that one. It's cool to get, I guess, if I could talk about Logan Paul in general, it's cool to get him on board to kind of promote things, but I don't know. It's not going to do the trick. And really nothing matters with their story. Like, we don't have to believe them. We don't have to like them, whether you do or not. I'm not saying don't like them, but we don't have to do anything because they're saying they're going to bring undebunkable proof. So that's all that matters. Like, all this other stuff does not matter. They're either going to show the undebunkable proof or not, and they have by the end of the year to do it. That's the timeline they gave themselves. So that's all that matters now. All this other stuff about Skywatcher, it's fun to think about and debate it, But they're either going to show the proof or not. And if they don't, we can just start destroying them on January 1st in a non-violent way. I'm talking about destroying them, online, and just start. You could bash them all you want. Everyone can, because they put that timeline on themselves. So they either are going to deliver or not. And to me, that's kind of cool, actually. It kind of takes out everything else that we're worried about. They either got it or they don't. Undebunkable. That's their word, not mine.
You are the eternal optimist, my friend.
I'm actually pretty pessimistic. I don't see how they can possibly do what they say they're going to do. But they're the one that made the claim. So I'm just here for the ride.
Right.
What?
For our audience who may be unfamiliar or just tuning in, what are the claims that they are making, and which ones do you think are going to be very difficult?
Well, Jake said a number of times they're going to show undebunkable proof. We're in undebunkable territory. So that's what he said that they're going to have by the end of the year. Basically, disclosure, because that's what undebunkable proof is disclosure. They're basically claiming they're going to cause disclosure by the end of the year. They're going to prove NHI is real, or prove UFOs are real, or something along those lines. A lot of people were wondering if they were going to get an actual craft themselves. I don't know. They didn't say that exactly. But they're basically saying they're going to cause disclosure by the end of the year, or have undebunkable proof, whatever that means to you. That was their claim.
Who do you think is allowing them to come out with this?
That's a great question, and it's really weird. And of course, it sounds like they've had the dog whistle for many years in whatever government program they were working on. That's what I was thinking, that they must have all this already. Now they've gone public with it, and they're kind of just like acting like they're going to do it in real time when they've already had it done. That's the only thing that made sense to me. But maybe they're just so confident because they already have angels that they think NHI angels telling them what to do, or telling Jake what to do. Maybe that's why they're so confident. I don't know, because it's really weird, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, other than how could you put that time limit on yourself of only 1 year? And it's because I guess they've been doing this for so many years already, and maybe they already have it. I don't know. But I'm just I'd like to pick their brain on it a little bit, but at the same time, none of this matters. They're either going to do it or not. And if by the end of the year, if they say they need more time, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
Well, that's where you're going to, put your protest sign up, right? Get off my lawn. Because, you're getting gray in the beard now, like I am.
I'm going to start tweeting the storm, and that'll really show them, darn it.
Shake your fist at them. That's all you need to do, my
I'm going to
friend.
send them so many emojis. Man, they won't know what to think.
And they'll be like, oh, Danny, you're so 2017. You're so 2017. I really hope that we can move the ball forward. How much do you think the private contractors are laughing at all of this right now? Because they have all the toys. They have everything to keep it out of FOIA requests. Do you think they're just sitting there, looking online saying, look at these idiots battle this. Look at these guys on YouTube. Look at that chubby Canadian guy with white hair, looks like Santa Claus. Okay, talking about this crap every night. You think they're laughing at us?
Yeah, I do. Some of the stuff that we're coming up with and saying is probably very accurate, and it scares people. But even me, like, I'll know an inside story about something, and then I'll see I'll listen to a Spaces where everyone's like coming up with all these like wild conspiracy theories that make no sense because they don't have any inside knowledge, and they're just totally speculating. And I'm like laughing at them because it's just ridiculous. So I'm sure there's a degree of that as far as you can get into this, where there's, government guys and private contractors and stuff like that looking at us like we're idiots. At the same time, I think we do scare them and have them on their toes a little bit. And I truly, really try not to be conspiratorial. And the more I've gotten into the UFO subject, I've really tried to shun a lot of conspiracies because I want to stay as credible as possible. There is some stuff that's weird. Like when I look at Jeremy Corbell claims that the jellyfish was in the water for 17 minutes and then left the water. And then Arrow released a clip of the video that was 17 minutes, but it wasn't the water part of it. So the conspiracy in my mind is like, did they do the 17 minutes to mess with him? Like, where did they get exactly 17 minutes when that was the claim of how long it was in the water? And then there was another one. And then Arrow released the debunking of the jellyfish the same day that Jeremy came out with the new whistleblower. And was that just another weird coincidence, or is it some sort of odd conspiracy where they were trying to mess with his credibility? Sometimes I'll see weird stuff like that. And then there was also a lot of weird things at the last hearing where it felt like the game was fixed. And then there was politicians saying they were told not to say certain things. Were they getting told that it's to do with UFOs and you can't say it? Or were they getting told they can't say certain things because it was just national security and it's all just really drones and there's no UFOs, but you still can't say it because it's national security? So sometimes I hear these comments and I'm just like, what is going on?
I often wonder that as well. What is going on? The public seems to love and hate Jeremy Corbell at the same time. He's very blustery. He's very poignant. He's very dramatic about his opinion. He swears a lot, wears a nice watch, has great beard. Okay. He is tapped in, whether people like it or not. He is very tapped in to what is going on. What do you think makes him so polarizing?
I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is petty. I would say this about every single person in the UFO world. I'll see people online and they'll say, well, I don't like their body language. I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't want to hear about what you think about their body language. What does that matter to me? What are you, a body language expert? Or even if you are, like, that matters? Like, so sometimes I think it's just people judging superficially. I've been guilty of it myself over the years. And then, but it's just the wrong way to look at things. And you got to look at their information. So, but people are always convinced that so-and-so is a plant, or so-and-so is disinformation, so-and-so is doing this behind the scenes, like whether it's Lou Elizondo or whatever. I mean, a lot of it is just massive amounts of speculation. And I don't think that's fair to people. But, if you don't like that Jeremy is like, kind of wears, fashionable clothes, or, things that at first I was like, well, this guy doesn't seem like when I didn't know him, I thought, he doesn't seem like a regular journalist or something. He's like hip, he's younger than everyone else. So I was kind of like thinking he wasn't credible, but he is extremely credible. And not to say he isn't getting tricked at times. Like, I don't know that he is, but I know he does his homework and he does blood, sweat, and tears for the subject. And he has George Knapp at his side. So I think him, George, are two of the best we possibly have. And they've been most consistent. After To the Stars, they've released the most things. And yeah, 27 Palms was debunked. That was a mistake. But a lot of this other stuff hasn't been debunked. It hasn't proven anything. But it's also really interesting. And isn't the whole point that we want to see stuff and judge for ourselves? And George and Jeremy are giving us that opportunity. So I think they do great work, and they're two of the best we have.
Final question. We got 1 minute to go. This one comes from Runa asking, have you heard Rick Doty's latest claim about Space Force that Lou Elizondo and him were offered jobs as UFO disinfo agents?
Yes, I saw that on Twitter today. I've never really paid attention to Rick Doty. I just don't care what he says. Once you've kind of been proven weird and you don't know what's right and what's wrong, he's just so far out there that I'm just not interested in him, and I'm just not interested in what he has to say. He's in that bucket. If you're in that bucket for me, I got better things to do than to listen to those claims. A lot of the stuff he says is interesting. I'm not saying don't listen to him, but me personally, I don't spend my time thinking about his claims. So I don't know the answer to that. But with his track record, I don't have it hold weight. Maybe it's true. I doubt it, but it's not something I'll spend time on.
Danny Silva from the Silva Record. It is always a pleasure to get you on Spaced Out Radio. I know you come on twice a year, so I'm assuming we'll talk to you in the fall. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. You do a great service.
Thank you. Danny Silva, one of the best out there. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, then the happiest guy on earth, the cryptid guy, Christian McLeod, filling in for Robin Haynes.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. with your host, Dave Scott.
Appreciate that, Danny. You were
Thanks,
awesome.
man. That was a lot of
tonight, man.
fun. I got to wake up in like 5 hours. I'm going to get out of here. But, man, I really appreciate it. That was cool. I'll talk to you soon, my guy, okay?
We'll talk soon, buddy. Take care. Danny Silva, everybody. One of the good guys in this field. Love him. Absolutely love him. I'll be right back, guys. All right. There he is, the happiest man on earth.
Hey,
Right there.
Say.
Squeeze your fat ass in that seat, you boyo.
Hold on. Let's show everybody how happy you could be.
I
Right
know.
there.
Oh, here it comes. Here
There it is. The happiest man on earth right
the
there.
happiest guy on the planet.
Dude, every time I look at that, I just piss myself laughing.
Yeah, that was the best time I had that whole event.
Oh, man.
So I talked to our mutual friend. You and I were the high flyers. We got the highest ratings at anyone. I'm not going to tell you who beat you by like 20, but it was me. But
What's that?
Huh?
You and I were the highest flyers. I know that.
In Nebraska.
Yeah.
According to
2 years in a row.
the polls. I got to talk to you off air about something. Someone turned into a dick. One of our friends turned into a real asshole about that. And shall not be coming back ever.
Oh, now I'm curious.
No, I mean, I'm not going to talk to you online. I'll tell you straight up. Robin texted me today, asked me to cover, and we've been doing an investigation for the last week, so we've been out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. So I said, yeah, no problem. I don't need to sleep.
Hey, hold that thought. We'll chat about it after the show.
No problem.
We're coming back in 5 seconds here.
Okay, do.
Third and final hour of Space Radio. Planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone tuning us in around North America digitally on every major podcast network. We appreciate you, especially on our terrestrial radio stations. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hypostrophe. Hypostrophe is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
It was near the end of 2018, around November, I believe, so it was damp and cold out, but nonetheless still comfortable for me when I got a call from my friend Joe. He wanted to come up to my house and stay a few days to get out of the city, so to speak, because I live up in the mountains. The usual middle-of-nowhere type old wooden house with my mom, who rarely was home for more than 2 to 3 hours at a time due to her job, and the mountains of Tennessee can have some pretty backwoods areas. We have neighbors, but they are a good distance from us, so we don't really know them all that well. Enough details for now, though. So, I get off the phone with Joe, and proceed to the city where, of course, I and he hung out and played some video games and slightly lost track of time. We left, and thanks to the time of year, it was already dark. It was maybe around 6:30 to 7 when we got back to my place, and it had begun sprinkling rain on the ride up. But we get there with no problem. We go in and start setting up the game stations to begin the night of games and movies, typical stuff we often did. It is around 10 when we have everything set up, and the slight rain had subsided, so we open the window to cool the room. The backyard is dark, and I mean dark, and it leads straight into the woods beside the small shack in my yard. But it never bothered us as we were halfway through our movie, when I and Joe both heard a faint metallic-like sound coming from the woods. It caused me and Joe to pause the movie and ask if we both heard the same thing. I said I had, So we listened for a moment, and we heard it again. This time, though, it sounded closer. It was so windy, so we blamed it on the wind, and plus, we have a tin roof, but we resumed the movie and kind of forgot about it. About 30 minutes later, we hear this sound again, but once again, it is much louder than the last. It sounded like someone hitting a metal baseball bat against a tree. So I paused the movie again, and I and Joe looked at each other. We decided to stay quiet and turn the lights down and take a look out the window. We saw nothing, but kept hearing it move around the woods, so to speak. We started getting a little freaked out, but turned the movie back on and lowered the volume, mostly as a ploy to act as if we were ignoring it. But really, we were listening intently to the outside noises, and the sound quickly stopped. They now transitioned to the side of my house, just under the opened window. We froze, and for what felt like 5 minutes just stared at the window, seeing nothing but the darkness and slight glow of the floodlight coming from the side of the house. Soon, we saw a shadow in the light. Then all at once, the light shook and went out. We turned and ran into the front room and grabbed a light, and anything we could use as a non-lethal weapon, and bolted outside to the area from which the sound was coming from. It was coming from just under the window. There was nothing. No sound, no light, but my floodlight was unscrewed and on my porch, which really freaked us out. So I quickly put the light back up, and we had a brief look around when it began raining pretty hard. We stopped our search and concluded that whoever or whatever unscrewed that light was gone. We assumed it did not want to stay in the rain, as we did not either. We got back inside, still thinking about what had just happened. As I went to look out the window, I saw what looked like a man standing in the dark looking at me from behind the shack in my yard. I was scared, I would not lie, but I kept talking to Joe as if I did not see him. I walked over to my desk and I calmly took out my 9mm handgun. I had used this for home protection due to previous incidents that we had had. I stow it in my lap and hoped that whoever was outside would leave. It seemed that for another hour or so that the guy was gone, but we heard loud footsteps on my porch near the floodlight, then a series of loud banging on my wall right next to where we were sitting. I stood up and cocked my handgun. When I saw the outside light go out again, I moved to the window and shoved nearly my whole upper body out of the window and fired at least 7 shots right under the outside of the light, and I saw the man run into the woods wildly off into the dark again. Silence and darkness crept over us again the remainder of the night. We kept the lights on and the window shut, and nothing else happened. All has been quiet since.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy, spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to Swamp Dweller on YouTube, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and listen to thousands of stories just like that for free. Filling in for Robin Haynes tonight on the Cryptid Q&A, we have the happiest man on earth. We call him the cryptid guy around here, Christian McLeod.
Hello. How are you doing? Hey, can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
Christian McLeod, how you doing, my bud?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I am wonderful. It's good to have you back on SOR, and thank you for filling in for Robin tonight. We appreciate that.
Oh, anytime, man. You know, I'm always happy to do it.
You have been on a major investigation recently. What have you been up to?
We've been in the woods looking for Bigfoot and his pals. For lack of a better word. I mean, we had some paranormal stuff happen. It was pretty cool. We found an area for some reason in the middle of nowhere that had a radiological signature, about 3 rads. Still don't know what that was about. And no, it was pretty good. We hadn't been on an investigation for a while in that area. So we just actually got back this morning. And that's when Robin called me. And
I said, hey, more than happy to do it. I need to sleep. I will stay away from my buddy Dave. That's what I'll do. That's the kind of friend I am.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. When you go on an investigation, what do you bring with you? Say an amateur out there is thinking about doing this for the first time, and they want to go out and find Bigfoot or something creepy out in the forest. What's your advice to them? What do you bring? What's your advice?
Honestly, the best thing you can have is common sense. Some of these people, if you've never been out in the woods before, it's not a shame or a sin to learn how to be in the outdoors. A lot of people go out and they do more than what they can really do. Does that make sense? They overestimate their abilities, shall I say? And they don't bring enough stuff. They'll bring like 3 or 4 charging pads for their phone, but they won't bring bottled water or they won't bring food. It's stuff like that. It's like, well, how are you going to build a fire? How are you going to stay dry? Where's your tent? Where's your sleeping bag? And I think what happens is a lot of times people see these TV shows, and I'm not going to say which show I'm particularly thinking of, but I will say it was the one that never found anything. They'd be allegedly sleeping out in these places, and they'd have all of a sudden their gear show up, automatically appears, and their tent's all put up, and their tent's all, everything's all ready for them. But they're not carrying that stuff in. I mean, you got to understand, you're carrying a lot of weight in, so that also restricts how far you're going to go in the woods. And the other thing is you need to know where you're going in the woods and how to get out. And a lot of people, you show a kid a compass today, most people don't know what that is. So I strongly suggest before you do anything, you learn how to use a compass properly. You learn how to properly. You learn how to use a map, a topographical map, and you know the area you're going into. The other thing is, I always tell people, don't go camping if you're not armed. That's a big thing down here. You can carry firearms in federal land, and if you have a permit, you can carry anyway. But I always tell people before you do this, go get your permit, learn how to be operational with firearms, and carry a firearm. I don't worry about Bigfoot attacking me as much as I do a 2-legged hillbilly selling crack. So, and that's just in the area I'm in. And Appalachia is very interesting, but it can also be very dangerous. So, I mean, you've got to know the area. You just got to know your stuff, and it takes time and practice. So, I mean, if someone says, hey, show me how to do this, the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, well, what kind of equipment do you have? Do you know how to use it? Where are you going? Do you know the location? Do you have maps? How are you going to get out there? How long are you going to be out there? I would never tell anyone to spend the night out there first night around. I'd say go for a 4 or 5 hour hike. Maybe go 5 miles up, 5 miles back. And always have someone with you. Never go alone, because that's just plain. That's. I used to do that stuff, and it's stupid. The fact I'm alive today is just ridiculous, because I almost bought it so many times just by being stupid. I blame Indiana Jones as a youth, but that's just me. But it's actually very dangerous out there, and you got to know what you're doing. So and like I said, if you don't know, then just learn. You can learn something new every day. And there's nothing wrong with learning how to camp properly or track or all this other stuff. I was very, very lucky. I grew up in the mountains as a kid. I had survival training. I was very, very lucky with the people I did that with. So I mean, it's I'm very blessed in that area. But again, it's just not hard to do it if you really want to do it. And if you want to get into cryptid investigations, that you need to know how to do that. I mean, you go out camping all the time. I mean, you bring your son out. If you're not comfortable out there, your son's not going to be comfortable out there. You know that just as well as I do. So, I mean, it's just the same thing, but it's all common sense.
It is a matter of being common sense. And the one thing that I will add to that, and I've said this on the show, and I know a lot of people laugh when I say this, but realistically, outside of being safe and carrying bear spray and maybe carrying a pointy stick if you need to, have an animal come around, learn your poop.
Mm.
Learn your poop.
That
is probably.
You're 100% right. You're 100%. You can tell what's in that area when we see the scat on the floor. Now you can take that to an extreme, like some people we know. But for the most part, if you know what raccoon scat or deer scat or bear scat looks like, and you see it, you won't have to worry about it because you know it's out there. you see something, like 40-pound block or something, that might be something else. You might want to be a little more wary of that. But
And
you're absolutely
it
right.
never hurts. And as gross as this may sound, it never hurts to take a stick and see what is in that poop.
Yep.
Like,
Or
for
have a newbie
instance,
step in it.
well, I mean, you take bear poop, for instance,
Mhm.
right? You don't know what you're going to find in there, whether it's bones, whether it's fur, whether
Clothing.
it's berries, maybe
Yeah.
even a little piece of clothing. You don't know. And it's always good to know your territory and what is walking in your territory at that time, whether the poop is fresh or whether the poop is 24 to 48 hours old. Take a look at it, study your poop, and know your poop.
Well, the other thing is, like, even if you see it, you can tell if there's a lot of coyotes around, because you see a lot of coyotes. They all kind of poop at the same time, and it'll all be all over the place. It's the same thing. Bear scat. Usually there'll be a pile here, a pile there, a pile over there. But you're 100% right. There's nothing wrong with taking a stick and just moving it and see what's in there. I see, a pair of jeans and a flannel T-shirt. I'm going the other way.
It might be not the time to be in that spot.
Yeah, it's not. You know what? No, this is not for me. I'll take a GPS of where I am, and if so, I'll report it to the authorities, and I'm leaving. But that's usually what happens. But no, you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with knowing or having a whole lot of knowledge about outdoor bushcraft. Nothing at all. It's actually a gift.
When you are on investigation, how do you know you are in the right spot? Because a lot of people will ask and have asked me before, Dave, how do I know how to find a Sasquatch area?
Dave, to be honest with you, a lot of that we just go by feeling and reports. We'll get where I am in Appalachia, there's this one place, we'll just call it Zone A, all right? Well, if we get 5 or 6 reports in Zone A in like a month on my 800 number, we'll go check it out, but we'll try to figure out, on topo maps where the highest part is, where the water is, and where the furthest away from people you could be in that particular area. And that's where we generally go. And then we just kind of go through there, go from that. That's what we do. Sometimes it's just instinct, like, you're just tracking something real big in the woods. And for those of you who know how to do that, tracking is not as hard as most people think. You just have to pay attention to the area. You got to look at sticks that are broken, look for foot stride, just look for areas of easy access. Most people, most cryptids, and most animals are going to take the path of least resistance, unless you're trying to evade something. But I've also seen, size 18 by 9 tracks and at basically the base of a mountain, and you can see where something started pulling itself up to the point where it's digging its fingers into the dirt. So, these creatures, they can do incredible things. So it's all situational. You can have a set plan, but how often do plans come to fruition? You just kind of have an idea what you want to do and then play it by ear.
I find it very fun. Like, I'm going out this weekend to start my big investigation. I'm pumped up. I'm nervous. I'm scared because it is an odd situation. Man. What's that?
I said you're Dave Scott. You have nothing to be scared
of. I know.
They should be scared of you.
But I can be Shaggy out in the forest too. And we'll call Tim James Scooby, right? I mean, the forest can be intimidating.
It can. And one wrong move, man, you're not coming out.
Have you ever had the forest change on you or play
Yes.
games on you when you've been in that area
Yes.
multiple times? What happened there?
Tiny and I used to go up this one track in McDowell County, and we've been there 7 or 8 times. I mean, it's one of these places where you could just, you didn't have to pay attention. You were on like autopilot. And we were coming out after an incident happened. I think we got hit by infrasound, to be honest with you. I really do. Because we actually saw on another peak, like probably 500 yards away, we saw this massive massive. It had to have been it had about 9-10 foot Bigfoot. It was just huge. But we saw its silhouette between two trees on the next peak, and it was kind of doing the rocket back kind of forth thing. And we tried to take pictures of it and everything like that, and it was a blob. But I think we got hit for infrasound because it was like we both had to stop, and I don't know how much time passed, but when we were walking back, nothing looked familiar. I ended up sliding down about 40 feet in the mud on the side of this hill, and I didn't even know it was there. And I ended up in a little creek. So it was, yeah. I mean, that's happened before, and that's terrifying because you don't know which way you're going.
Have you ever had a situation where all of a sudden you've been in that area before, and then you take a look around and everything looks completely different?
Yeah, same. Yeah, and again, I don't know why that's happened. We were actually using a GPS one time from 2 weeks prior, and we were exactly like within 6 feet of where we were supposed to be, and it looked completely. There was a tree that was knocked down. I had pictures of that was gone. There was like a swampish area that I don't even know what that was all gone. That was all trees. It was crazy. But according to GPS, we were right there. So yeah, I mean it's strange, and you have to wonder why that happened or how that happened, because it'll freak you out. Because if you don't know where you're going at that point, you look like you're lost. Then that's when you got to stay. That's when you keep a calm head.
Same thing happened out at Flight 21 for us. In 2018, when Merle and I went out there and we walked into this meadow behind the crash site, there was no fallen trees in that meadow. It was an open meadow. It wasn't a big meadow, but it was still probably 30 yards in diameter. And there was a big boulder in the middle. Go back there a couple of years later, there's trees fallen all over that area. And I have zero recollection of there being trees around that could fall in that area because we were standing in a meadow. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The trees were all in the perimeter, but not in the middle. And yet you look, you can't find that meadow anymore because there's trees strewn all over the place.
There's another place. I don't talk about this place much because we had a real close call there, and we haven't been back. It was one of those times where you hear about people just leaving stuff and running for their lives, kind of thing. That's kind of what this was, and I'm not proud of it, but we were freaked out. We didn't know what it was. We were sitting down taking pictures, and it was an old Native American ground, and it looked like a natural amphitheater. And we're sitting there. It was gorgeous, Dave. It was gorgeous. It was just like so picturesque. It was beautiful. All the trees were in bloom. The birds are singing. The streams go. It's so picturesque. It's gorgeous. But then all of a sudden, it's like a piece of log about 18 inches by 10 inches. I still don't know where that came flying from, but it looked like it was thrown from 100 yards and then came and landed right between the two of us. And we were setting up trail cams, and it was just one of these things where no idea what that was from. And then we heard like a grunt, and then more wood came flying, and it was just we just had to get out of there. But it was one of those things where you just totally weren't expecting it, And I think that happens too. But it's one of these things where I'll tell you what, we left a bag of trail cams. We never went back for it. I'll buy new ones. If someone wants you out that bad, my advice is to leave. And the other thing, always listen to your gut. It's the reason why you got your gut. Listen to your gut instinct. Whenever someone's out in the woods, I don't care what you're doing. If your gut instinct says, you know what, let's get out of here, leave. Don't stick around.
Sometimes that's when the fun part starts, though.
Yeah, well, that's also sometimes when people can disappear.
Well, let's continue that conversation when we come back from the break. The happiest man in the world, the cryptid guy, Christian McLeod, here on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
David.
I love that photo.
Uh,
Oh man, don't forget our audience can hear us.
yeah, you should just show that. You should download it and they could buy it for like 50 cents and just have their name put on it.
We could make it. What was that trend a couple years ago where you took photos and you made them into like online sports cards?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
We could do that one too.
We could do both of them. That's nice.
Yeah, that's a classy one. And here's, of course, horse shit manor. That's where this is Nebraska, people.
Right there.
Think before you go.
It's gonna look nice when they're done.
Yeah, here's the sign. No expense spared. No expense spared.
Oh man.
That's when we're getting out of the van from Rudy Earl.
Right? Are you and Christina coming up here?
We're trying to. We're just trying to find the time. How was Vegas?
It was fun.
Yeah, I saw your pictures. I commented on a few.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe the words dirty bastard, things of that nature, you know.
You were invited.
Dude, I wish I could have gone, man. I couldn't get out of work, man. Couldn't get him recover.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, what's this Space Travelers Club?
It's on Patreon.
I better be a VIP member for free. That's all I'm saying. Oh, you son of a bitch.
Are you ever going to start your show?
Yeah, we're actually going computer shopping tomorrow. We just finally got everything taken care of. We had those things planned, and then we have we've just been busy. We've had we got an investigation lined up in Tennessee. I think Thursday. We have to drive to Tennessee. This lady has recordings of Dogman out her back porch growling at her. She's a nurse. From what I've heard and the stuff she sent me, I believe it's 100% legit. 100% legit because it doesn't, one of the clues most people don't realize is Dogman don't have an orange or red eye shine. It's blue. So when everyone says, oh, you've seen red eyes or something like that, it's probably a Bigfoot. Dogmen generally have a blue eye shine. And when someone says, oh, there's a blue eye shine, you got a real Dogman report. But the stuff she was sending me in the growls and stuff, I kept playing the growls on my phone. She sent him a voice link. And the dog was so freaked out, he went and hid under Christina.
Hi, Joey on Twitch says, I wish you guys had a call-in line. There's a reason why I don't have a call-in line. And that's because too many nut bars ruined it.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth.
That's why I got an 800 number. I had so many nutcases. I used to put my real phone number on my cards, Dave.
Yeah.
And I would get phone calls. I had this one guy, I used to call him Freaky Freddy. He'd call me every Friday around 4 a.m. and he'd say he could introduce me to Bigfoot if I brought him a case of Jack Daniels. And he lived out in Marshall. And he didn't have a physical address. He had a grid point. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Nah.
I had a guy in my Blog Talk Radio days when we first started. Blog Talk Radio used to have a call-in number associated with your studio. And I would take calls. And one time I had somebody, I'm not going to say what the story was, but I had somebody disguise a story that was ended up being so horrifically racial and disgusting that I decided right then and there that I would never take calls.
You can't do it. You can't have that.
Yeah. Unless you have a call screener.
Yep.
Like if my radio studio is pro, but I don't have a call screener and I don't have somebody who can hit the cut line along with the swear button.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
I
you gotta
had
have
all
that.
of those, if I had all of those, I could take calls. But because I don't have those, I'm not taking the chance. Somebody trying to be hilarious.
Even Art Bell, he had that 5-second delay, and when he
Yeah.
was doing it all himself, he still had the swear button. You know,
Yeah.
so you have to set it up like that.
Here we go, Christian. Here we go. Momentarily, but first, if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, Christian McLeod from American Cryptid, American Haunting. He is Mr. USA himself, the happiest man on earth. What's happening, my friend?
I'm just being the happiest man on earth, brother. What can I tell you?
Oh, man. We were talking about finding an area, safety, how the areas have changed. You know, I had a situation. It was weird. When I was driving down to the airport to go to Nebraska, where I met up with you, I had the weirdest thing happen, my friend. I've driven that highway 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was changing on me. I saw things that I had never seen. And it wasn't anything spectacular. I'm saying, like, I don't recognize this portion of the road. Or where's that curve? There should be a curve here. And there was no curve. Or whatever it may be. Is it the brain playing tricks on us? Or does nature have a way of changing? I know there's investigators who've put trail cams up in the forest, and they've literally watched trees appear and disappear, then appear again, or the tree will actually move over a few inches from where it was and then move back. Do you think Mother Nature plays some strange games on us?
I want to say no, but I've had these things happen to myself so many times. There's some kind of phenomena that happens. I don't know if it's a mental thing where we just in our minds think, oh, hey, it should be this over here, but it's not. It's not 5 miles down the road or something like that. I don't know, but I will say this: look at how fast you can change the landscape of something. You know, as far as like roads go. I live in North Carolina, and they are constantly they have been doing road work for 25 years in one section, and it is constantly changing. So every time you drive that, it looks a little different. But I think that's because they might be cutting down trees. There might be more tree growth. You know, after the hurricanes, we had so many down trees that the entire landscape changed. So I think what happens is sometimes you get these weather things, weather patterns that happen, and maybe snow, ice, things like that, and they change the way the patterns of the area look. But I'm with you, man. It would not surprise me if Mother Nature wasn't pulling the foo-foo-gai-foo on us. Maybe that's another reason why there's so many people that get lost in the woods. You know, they just get disorientated, and maybe a landmark changed on them or something, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, it is a weird, weird world out there, and that's what we love about it, my friend, is how things are always changing, always moving. You were talking about right before the break, you were in an area that you got really scared. Really, the only time you've really got scared on an investigation. What was sneaking up on you, do you think?
I honestly, I think the reason why we were kind of, we've been investigations. We've had, we've had Dogman basically charge us. We've been bluff charged by Bigfoot. We've had, I've had logs thrown at the back of my car. We've been hit with pebbles. Over the years, it's like everything you can think of has happened. But I think what was so terrifying about this particular incident is we didn't know what the hell it was. We heard a grunt, but that was it. And usually there's some kind of if you're in an area where you're bothering a cryptid, and there's only two of you, usually they'll show, or they'll make an appearance, or they'll make a loud noise. That wasn't the case. We just had stuff being thrown at us from different angles, and there was a rock that was thrown on us. I'll tell you what, it was a size. I'm looking at my desk right now. It was bigger than a globe, and this thing just came out of nowhere. It looked like a meteor, just boom, and it was landing 3 feet in front of us, and there was only that one ground. We weren't hearing anything, but all this stuff just kept flying at us. And it got to the point where we didn't know what it was. Much like your swamp dweller story, we don't shoot into the abyss, but we don't know what we're aiming at. So, we were armed, but we just didn't do that. I mean, because you never know what it could have been. But I think that's the most scary is when you don't know what it is.
How do you know when they are around? They being the cryptids.
You can feel it. You feel you. I think the base instincts of the human being kick in. Your adrenaline's dumping. You're getting the goosebumps. You realize you're not at the top of the food chain real quick. There is a fight or flight that kicks in. I mean, that does happen, but it depends, because no matter how much you want to run, you just can't run. We've actually. We've been in situations where we've just lifted our hands up and walked backwards, got back on the trail, and just kept walking backwards and just kept apologizing, saying we're sorry, we won't come back again, blah, blah, blah. And you can just feel like the tension turn off. I've also been in places where I was doing a TV show with the Discovery Channel, and these guys would not. You ever get people, they bring you on, they pay me to advise them, and then everything I say they just completely ignore. And what happened is I said, hey, don't do that. It's a bad idea. And the next thing I know, I'm watching all their headlamps, and they're all running away. So the director, the cameraman, the digital audio recorder, the guy that goes hired to protect everyone, they're all running away. And they left me and the star of the show in the middle of the woods. So, I mean, it's like, people just, it's a common sense thing with me, Dave, And I'll be the first one. Like, if I get that little gut feeling to say it's time to leave, I'm the first one to stick around and pull out the camera and start taking pictures, because I'm stupid.
It's the third time you get that feeling it's time to leave.
Yeah, or when you can feel it. You get, it's like they're in my bubble. Once they're in the bubble, I'm out. Because I don't want to be a forced bride. I'm not down with that.
Everything has a different feeling to it. What is the different feeling? Yeah. What is the different feeling if you're in a forest and there's ghosts around, Dogman around, and let's say Sasquatch around? What are the different feelings? How do you know which one it is?
Paranormally, see, and I do paranormal stuff too. So paranormally for me, if it's a ghost, you kind of get that. You can sense. You can kind of sense that. It's like you can kind of feel that. You can kind of feel almost like a cold force, for lack of a better word. When it's a Dogman, it's usually more of a fear thing. And Sasquatch, to me, I've never had an incident when we've run into a furball, so I like to call them, where it was the same as everything. when you know they're around, you just know, like you can feel it. It's like it's like I said, it's like an inborn instinct. Dogman, it's more of a fear thing, and with the paranormal, over the years, I've been doing cryptid and paranormal investigations now for 27 years, and every paranormal event almost feels the same. Like you just feel it. It's like it's almost cold, or you get that feeling on the back of your neck, like your hair standing up. But that's about it. When you have like that raw fear instinct and you're in the woods, you're probably picking up on something you don't realize. I believe that we can smell stuff and our body just reacts to it. We don't know what we're smelling. It could be pheromones, could be anything, but it could be something that a large North American primate or a large North American cynocephaly is just it's just the way they smell. We're picking up on that, and the first instinct, our inborn instinct, says, "Okay, that's a bad thing. We need to get out of here." So I think that's the feelings I get. Sometimes it's just you get that you almost feel nauseous when you're doing cryptid stuff and you find something. But that's about the most that's ever happened to me. I mean, I don't. Some people, I've seen these people where they get headaches or they'll just drop or they'll be unconscious 24 hours, and they need to reset. But that's never happened to me or anyone I know.
I find that paranormal is very heavy. It's very heavy on the shoulders, very heavy on the neck.
Here's the other thing. It's all exhausting. It is exhausting because it does take something out. You do feel I mean, something's happening. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You can feel it, but it is exhausting. But I don't find it heavy. I like I've said, to me, it's more like a cold area.
Maybe it hits people differently.
I'm sure it does. Because our buddy Robin gets the same thing. Robin will get hit with something and it'll either completely wear her out right then and there, or it's cold, or it's just so much she just gets exhausted.
Do you find then that your own intuition works in the forest? Because I know you're a real science guy. You're looking for scientific answers, but you feel that your own intuition really bails you out most of the time when you're in the forest?
Yeah, more than anything else. And I'm a science guy. I'm saying that I can't prove it. I don't know how. There's no way for me to replicate that. There's no way for me to put down a scientific method and say, okay, here's how I did it. I don't know if it's just from growing up in the woods, as a kid, or the people I've known and the stuff people have shown me, but it's one of these things where if you're not going to listen to your instincts, you don't need to be out there.
Let's go to Human Carl here, who has a question.
Carl.
We have to call him Human Carl because we don't want to misconstrue him and people to think he's actually Alien Carl listening in. Yeah. He's asking, have you ever been to the LBL, Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky?
Yeah, I've been on the south side, never been on the north side. When I went up there, they were doing construction. I didn't feel anything. But then again, I wasn't where the real hot spots were. And at that time, we weren't really slated for a whole investigation. We were just in there for like an hour, just kind of walking around, taking some pictures, checking out the alleged area. And I was in the wrong area. It wasn't the area with the scene. No, I never felt anything in there. From what I understand, most of the problem happens in the northern side.
So for people who've maybe never heard of what happened at the LBL, maybe break that down.
In 1982 or 84, there was a family that was allegedly slaughtered by a 10-foot dog man. And they think one of the reasons why it happened was both mom and dad were wearing copious amounts of cologne with pheromones in it. And part of the story is they had two kids. The young man was killed instantly on site. Then the father was killed. Then the mother apparently put up a great struggle, but then she was killed. And then the daughter was killed and dragged outside and hung up in a tree. And some people think she was, fed on, and other people just say That never happened at all. But regardless, her body was allegedly found 30 feet in a tree, and that all happened in the old parking area or the old RV area of the LBL, and all that has since then has been completely destroyed and redone. I have talked to so many people, Dave. I've had so many different stories on that. I don't know. Our good friend Kumbo, he has had, he had prior information from a friend of his that was there, and I tend to believe that story, the one he told me, that it was a horrific scene. But what they ended up doing was bringing in the Army, and this thing was so big they had to take it out. They had to pull it out of the woods with a deuce and a quarter truck, and then they put it on a Sikorsky and flew it out. So, and apparently that's the average size of those things running around in there.
Why do people think that never happened?
Disinformation. You can't find out. Here's the wonderful thing about the LBO story. When a lot of people say, well, what happened to the bodies and blah, blah, blah. Apparently, and again, this was told to me by someone else. Apparently what they did is they took the remains of all the bodies. They put them back in the car and the RV. They took the RV into a different state. They took it out in the middle of nowhere off a highway. They basically staged a crash, drenched it in diesel, and lit it up. And that's what happened to the people who know it was. That's what happened to the people. That's how they were reported dead. That was their cause of death, car accident. But if you think about that, that's brilliant. I mean, I hate saying that's nice, but it's a brilliant way to take care of an issue. Well, what happened? They got killed by, a werewolf. No, they didn't. They died in a car accident. You take care of all these questions, and you give them simple answers.
People can accept that.
I would much rather hear that I had a relative. God, I don't want anyone to pass away, but if someone, God forbid, passed away, I'd want them to go quick, and not be, devoured by a, unknown cryptid, and hopefully they found peace with God real quick. But you're right. People will accept that. Dave, that's a beautiful understanding, man. That is right there. That's a quintessential element. That just shoves it all right there. That's what you just said. People will accept that.
In a case like that, let's say hypothetically, because it is a hypothetical case still.
Oh, it is. It is.
Let's say it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen after that? Do you think that they would send in a military unit to try and wipe them out? Do you think that they would send in a SWAT team? Or do you think they just clean up the mess and get the hell out of there?
I personally believe, this is me, and I'm going to say this because I have witnessed some strange things where I am. Where I live, the Asheville airport is very close, and I just happened to be out there, and there was 3 black helicopters, the Blackhawks, that landed there, and they had absolutely no tail mark, nothing, no numbers on them, nothing. And I witnessed the pilot and the co-pilot get out. They were all wearing they had uniforms on, but no insignias, no names, nothing. And I said, "Hey man, you mind if I take a picture of your chopper?" He goes, "Absolutely not. Just don't take a picture of my crew." And I was like, no problem. And I've still got these pictures. I'll send them to you. But I had shown these to a guy at another paranormal conference, and he's former CIA. He said he's former CIA, and I believe him because he's a friend of another friend. And I showed him these pictures, and he told me straight up, that's a special division out of one of the Army bases in North Carolina that goes in and handles problems. And they drop and go, and then they come back and pick them up. And after he told me that, there wasn't doubt in my mind, because that was when there was an issue going on not too far west of here near the Tennessee border, where allegedly a tribe or a group of Bigfoots have been getting pretty lackadaisical with their behaviors, and they've been walking downtown. There was some animals that disappeared. They may or may not have killed a person or something like that. And at that point, the government got involved. So there's no doubt in my mind the government has 100% knowledge of these things. I will. You can't convince me they don't. There's just no way. It's just
It just sounds so far-fetched.
But that's why it works. It's too crazy. No one's going to believe it. It's so crazy no one's going to believe it, but that's why it works. Think about it. You know, the guy you had on talking about the UFOs earlier. You know, I do. You know, I've been MUFON for years. You know, I'm a firm believer. In fact, the presentation I did when we were in Nebraska was on, you know, Betty and Barney Hill. I'll tell you right now. First of all, that one guy they were talking about, the fashion guy, I've never heard of his name. I did Google him. I looked him up, but I've never seen him. But I have people, when I say I know people who were in this specific arena, I know them. They're dear friends of mine, but they still don't tell me the truth. So when someone says they got a whistleblower or they're getting 100% this, they know that from this and that, you can't. Do not put your faith in that. Do not put your faith in that, because that could be a whole another con job. That could be just a complete and total smoke job. So, and the reason why I say that is because the same thing happens in the cryptid world. Same thing happens in the paranormal world. You know, for some reason, the powers that be do not want humanity or the populace of their particular country to know what's going on. I have a theory about why they want that, but I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. I think, how much would the world be better off if if Uncle Donald and your prime minister and all the countries got together and said, all right, here's the deal, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, boom, we're not alone. Here's what we got, XYZ. We're thinking September 1, we're going to tell the world about everything, and there you go. How much would we be cohesive as a human race at that point?
Christian McLeod, the American cryptid hunter, the happiest man on earth. Each and every night we have him on. He's absolutely amazing. Christian, you hold on. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody out there in Radio Land.
I know you're out there somewhere. This is the breaking time of Adventures Limited. 1,000 eyes away for you to break. Day and night, don't make a mistake. We're watching.
There he is, Christian McLeod, everybody. The happiest man on earth. Right there. Christian, you stick around. I'm going to say goodnight because I am absolutely dead tired and I've got a bunch of running around to do tomorrow. So
Understand.
Everybody else in the radio land, thank you tonight to Pam, Richard, T-Bone, Adam B, Area 53, and Human Carl for the wonderful super chats. And tomorrow night on the show, Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGuire. It'll be a good one. We're talking Skywatcher tomorrow night. Christian, you hold on. I'm just going to play the extra for everybody else.
Yes, sir.
And have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.